A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Autolite, 98,000 Coleman in tonight's presentation of Suspense.
Tonight, Autolite brings to life one of the most famous detectives in literature as we dramatize E.C. Bentley's classic novel of deduction, Trent's Last Case. Our star, Mr. Ronald Coleman.
Say, Hap, would you hand me that spark plug, please? No, the other one. Thanks.
Well, they both look alike to me, Harlow.
Well, they do look alike, Hap, but there's a big difference. This one is ignition engineered. That means it's built by Autolite, the people who really know spark plugs.
Well, what makes you say that, Harlow?
Why, Autolite makes complete electrical systems specified as original equipment on many leading makes of our finest cars. That means that Autolite engineers specialize in ignition. And because spark plugs are the very heart of a car's ignition system, they just naturally design spark plugs to give you the smoothest performance money can buy.
I guess I better be mighty sure I get only ignition-engineered Autolite spark plugs from now on. Eh, Harlow?
Right, Hap, because when you have ignition-engineered Autolite spark plugs in your car, truck, or tractor, you have the finest spark plugs money can buy. So, friends, be sure you get the very best by insisting on standard or resistor type ignition-engineered Autolite spark plugs. They're world famous for quality and performance, and they're made by the world's largest independent manufacturer of automotive electrical equipment. And remember, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
And now, Autolite presents E.C. Bentley's Trent's Last Case, starring Mr. Ronald Coleman, hoping once again to keep you in suspense.
The last case to which I, Philip Trent, applied myself in the field of criminology and detection occurred in the spring of 1910. I must acknowledge that the intricacies of the crime were worthy of the brain of Sigsbee Manderson. This colossus among financial giants had manipulated power and wealth in every corner of the world. He centralized industries of continental scope, smashed families and fortunes, and along with each dollar, he accumulated an enemy. When Sigsbee Manderson was murdered, the world lost nothing worth a single tear. The day of his death, Sir James Malloy, publisher of the London Record, asked me to cover the case for his paper. I agreed and immediately took the train to Bishopsbridge.
Trent? Philip Trent? Wait for an old man.
Why, Mr. Cupples, by all that's miraculous. How are you?
Breathless, Philip, breathless. I expected you'd be down to Bishopsbridge to write about the murder.
Well, that's rather a colorless way of stating it. I should prefer to put it that I have come down in the character of avenger of blood. To hunt down the guilty and vindicate the honor of society. Families waited on at their private residences.
Famous turned your head. This tragic affair will not blend well with your light-heartedness.
Ah, now, Mr. Cupples, you have more than a bystander's interest in the case.
I have indeed.
Come now, you didn't do the great man in.
Oh. Mabel Manderson is my niece, and there are some things you will learn which may prejudice you. I wanted you to hear them from me so your good judgment would not be impaired by gossip or malicious tongues.
Good. So you can walk to the Manderson place with me.
Oh, much too far to walk. I'll take you in my motor car.
Oh, now. You will go slowly, won't you?
Oh, very slowly. There, you get in. I'll crank the engine.
Now, how about your niece?
My niece had been married to Manderson for 5 years. They got along rather well, despite the difference in their ages. She was just 18 when they married, and he close to 50. Several months ago, for no apparent reason, he began to treat her miserably. He was surly, contemptuous, and insulting. When she could bear it no longer, she turned to me. I offered to speak to him, demand an explanation for his outrageous behavior.
Why didn't she speak to him herself?
Mabel is a most gentle and even-tempered person. She wanted to avoid a bitter squabble.
A rare woman, indeed.
Mm-hmm. I tried to see Manderson for a week. When I finally did catch up with him, I was doubly angry for his shabby treatment of his wife and for avoiding me.
And did you get any satisfaction?
He refused to discuss the matter. In the presence of witnesses, I'm afraid I made a rather rash statement. I expressed the view that men such as he did not deserve to live.
I wouldn't worry about that, Mr. Couples. That opinion seems to be universal. The strange thing is why your niece married Manderson.
Here we are. Would you mind opening the gates, please?
Oh, no. This will be fine. I'd like to nose around the grounds a bit, unless you want to drive in.
No. I'm staying in town. If you should want me, I'm at the Hotel Royal.
Well, thank you for the lift, Couples. I passed through the gates and walked the path between tall walls of hedges. A gap in this green wall took me to a gravel track that led to the small gardener's cottage. Someone was poking about as though looking for something. My approach startled the fellow.
This is private property. What are you doing here?
My name is Trents. And you?
John Marlowe.
Oh, yes. Secretary to Mr. Manderson, I believe. You seem to have lost something. Perhaps I can help you look.
No, I was just hoping I could find something here. Something that the murderer may have dropped. This is where Manderson's body was found.
Ah. And have you found anything?
No, I really didn't expect to. I've just been so...
Upset? Bereaved? Devastated by the master's death?
Frankly, no. I'm limp, that's all. I've been up all night, driving. Haven't had any sleep.
You should do your driving during the day.
Mr. Manderson had sent me on an urgent errand to Southampton just before he was killed.
Oh, then you weren't around when the deed was done.
I have accounted for myself to Inspector Murch.
But now that your employment here has come to an abrupt end, do you plan on leaving Bishopsbridge?
Mrs. Manderson has asked me to stay, to clear up various papers and loose ends.
Oh, well, then I shall see you about.
You shall. Mr. Trent, I would like to offer a suggestion. Snoop around if you must, but leave Mrs. Manderson alone.
I've already heard that she's a most fragile creature. But have no worries, Mr. Marlowe. I am gentle as a bird. When Marlowe left me, I pottered about the uncut grass which still showed where the body had lain. Then I started towards the large house. There was a man standing in the open French doors of the study.
Why, Trent! Come in!
Ah, me, 'twas ever thus. I did think for once I was the head of Scotland Yard, and now here again is the largest officer in the entire force already filling that prime position. How are you, Murch?
Earning my wages, Trent?
Ah, then you've arrested the bloke what done the old fellow in? Good work.
No, I didn't say that. It'll take more than you or me to put the cuffs on anyone in this case.
Oh, come now, what about the butler? And the upstairs maid, the cook, the gardener? Why, the place must be teeming with likely suspects.
That's the trouble. Manderson was not what I'd call a lovable chap. Too many suspects. Why, some bloke could have come here from Tanganyika or Timbuktu, pulled the trigger, and then gone home easy as you please.
The gun hasn't been found?
No. I have the bullet here, a .32.
Such a small bullet to have ruined such a large brain. Any powder burns?
None. The gun was fired from a distance of about 5 feet. The medical examiner has fixed the time of death at about midnight.
Where's the body?
At Ackerman's mortuary in town. I have a photograph here, taken where the body was found.
Let me see. Just corpse I've ever seen. Except for the shoes.
The shoes? Oh, why, they're very expensive and practically new.
I should like to see them if they're about.
Everything Mr. Manderson was wearing when he was killed has been returned to his room.
I suppose it'd be all right if I went up and sniffed around.
Of course. I'll lead the way. I've gone over everything thoroughly. I don't know why you're so interested in the shoes.
Murch, don't you think it rather strange that Manderson was dressed meticulously when he was shot? Hair parted neatly, tie in place, waistcoat completely buttoned. Yet the laces of the shoes were untied.
Oh, perhaps his feet bothered him. Now, I have terrible pain.
Could robbery have come into it, do you think? Anything missing from Manderson's pockets or from the house?
No. As a matter of fact, Manderson's wallet was overstuffed with about £5,000.
That's more than pocket money, even for a millionaire.
There was also a pouch of valuable uncut diamonds in one of his pockets. No, robbery is certainly out. This is Manderson's room here.
Uncut diamonds, eh? Has anyone guessed at their value?
About £10,000.
Well, good heavens.
Don't you think diamonds are worth that much?
Yes, but I'm more impressed by the array of shoes in this wardrobe. Why, there must be 50 pairs if there's one. Aha, this is what I want.
How could you tell that those are the shoes Manderson wore last night?
Well, look here. There's a tear near the tongue.
Well, as I said, they must have been a bit tight for him.
Now, why would he, with 50 pairs to choose from, select the one pair that pinched?
You know how it is. I've become attached to an old bathrobe. Much too tight for me. Yet I favor it over a new one that the wife gave me on my birthday.
It's odd. Very odd. Mert, I wondered if we could have a look at Marlowe's room now.
Certainly. It's just down the hall. But Marlowe's in the clear. He left at 11 last night, an hour before Manderson was killed. He got to the Bedford Hotel in Southampton at 6:30. Couldn't possibly have made the drive in less than 7.5 hours.
What was the errand Manderson sent him on?
He was to meet Mr. Harris and give him a package. Some big secret business affair of Manderson's, I imagine.
And Marlowe delivered the package and returned to Bishopsbridge?
He returned without making the delivery. Harris didn't appear.
You might at least knock before intruding.
Oh, I'm sorry, Marlowe. I thought the room was unoccupied.
No offense, Mr. Marlowe. Trent here is working on the case. You might call this visit official police business.
I've told you all I can. If you don't mind, I'd like to nap.
Marlowe, when you first went to work for Manderson, did he require a graduate of Oxford?
All he wanted was a capable secretary.
But you were at Oxford.
I was.
Marvelous place, Oxford. Gave us a great school and a fine style of shoe. By the way, Marlowe, what size shoe do you wear?
Inspector, if you don't remove this gentleman, I shall report this to the authorities.
Oh, come off it, Mr. Marlowe. Let's indulge Mr. Trent in a question or two.
I wear size 10C.
Thank you. Marlowe, have you any idea what was in that package for Mr. Harris?
No.
Where is it now?
A messenger came for it this morning.
Do you have any idea who this Mr. Harris may be? Have you ever met him?
No. Mr. Manderson had many private business arrangements about which I was kept in the dark. I was his secretary, not a business partner.
Isn't it rather odd that an American would hire an English secretary?
Well, not at all. Mabel... Mrs. Manderson is English. That is why Mr. Manderson lived in England a good part of the time. He wanted his wife to feel at home among her own people.
And I assume you did your part in that regard.
I beg your pardon?
I beg yours, Marlowe. Well, take your nap and pleasant dreams. Inspector Murch went off to complete arrangements for the inquest, leaving me alone in this marble mausoleum of a house to wait for Mrs. Manderson. I then sent a telegram to Oxford University and requested an immediate reply to my inquiries about John Marlowe's undergraduate activities. Then I wrote my first dispatch for the London Record, setting forth everything I knew, but keeping to myself those suspicions which, I hope, would soon be confirmed. Since Mrs. Manderson didn't appear, I decided to have another look at the gardener's cottage. But a compelling force turned me instead towards the sound of the sea. Standing at the edge of the cliff, I watched the beautiful movements of water, the wash of a light sea over broken rock. And then my heart seemed to stop. Close to the point where the cliff dropped sheer, A woman of remarkable beauty was sitting, her face full of some distant dream. I knew who this woman must be, Mabel Manderson. She was at once everything that poets and painters have tried to express with pen and brush. Yet this woman, who appeared to be devoid of evil and incapable of murder, this woman, whose husband's death had made her the wealthiest of widows, wore on her lips a faint, yet unmistakable, smile.
Autolite is bringing you Mr. Ronald Coleman in E.C. Bentley's Trent's Last Case. Tonight's presentation in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
There's one thing I've learned, Harlow, and that's to make sure I get ignition-engineered Autolite spark plugs for my car every time.
Well, you've learned a mighty important lesson, Hap, because money can't buy finer spark plugs. And that's proven every day by millions of car, truck, and tractor owners under all kinds of conditions. You see, Autolite spark plugs are designed by men who specialize in ignition. And because they know ignition, they know how important it is for spark plugs to work as a team with the complete ignition system.
Is that why you say they're ignition-engineered, Harlow?
Right you are, Hap. So, friends, treat yourself to the best. Ask for and insist on ignition-engineered Autolite spark plugs. They're world famous for quality and performance. Ask your dealer for the standard or resistor type best suited to your car and your style of driving. And remember, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
And now, Autolite brings back to our Hollywood soundstage Mr. Ronald Coleman in Elliott Lewis's production of E.C. Bentley's Trent's Last Case, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
To continue my narration of the peculiar circumstances surrounding the death of Sigsbee Manderson, the last case to which I, Philip Trent, applied myself, the sight of Mrs. Manderson at her sanctuary on the cliff had a most unsettling effect on me. I returned to the house and nervously paced the floor of the study for I don't know how long. When the door opened and my name was spoken, I stared stupidly.
Mr. Trent? I am Mrs. Manderson. You are Mr. Trent, I believe.
I believe, yes, Mr. Trent.
Please sit down, Mr. Trent. I would like to help you in any way I can.
Thank you. I'm sorry for inflicting myself upon you at this tragic time, Mrs. Manderson, but I have just a few questions. Last night, did your husband retire at the usual time?
Yes, at 10:30. Then, sometime after 11, I heard him move about in his room, which adjoins mine. I called and asked him if anything were troubling him. He said no, he was just a bit restless and would ask Mr. Marlowe to take him for a drive to relax his nerves.
And did the drive with Marlowe bring the desired result?
Well, I thought so. At about midnight, I heard my husband return and asked if he felt better. He replied that he did, and that he'd sent Marlowe on an errand to Southampton.
I see. Thank you. Your uncle, Mr. Couples, mentioned that Mr. Manderson behaved strangely towards you in the past month or so.
Well, he did, rather. I put it down to the pressure of business that had begun to tell on him.
And was he of a very jealous nature?
He had no reason to be jealous.
There were no quarrels? Differences of any kind?
Not quarrels, really. My husband liked to spend money. I never learned to. My needs were modest. I've long feared that the large amount of cash my husband always had on hand was an invitation to burglars.
And was he in the habit of carrying a pouch full of diamonds in his pocket?
He often bought expensive jewels for me, but they were kept in the safe. Since they were not put to use by me, perhaps he had decided to dispose of them.
Of course. I know this must be a harrowing experience for you, Mrs. Manderson, but you do want your husband's murderer brought to justice.
I will help in any way I can.
I didn't think I would learn anything by attending the inquest, so while it was being held, I strolled to the telegraph office.
Yes, sir?
I expected a telegram yesterday. I wonder whether it has come in.
What is the name, please?
Trent. Philip Trent.
Trent. That sounds familiar. Why, of course. A batch of telegrams was delivered to Mrs. Manderson last night. Sympathy messages, you know, the poor thing. Yours went out to the house along with the others.
You're sure of that?
Why, look here, the delivery book. You can see it's signed by the person who received it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The receipt bore a signature in a clear hand. John Marlowe. I found myself at the cliff again, and each crashing wave was like a hammer blow on my heart. I was certain of the contents of the telegram. Only one thing was not clear, and that was a motive. And each time the answer tried to insinuate itself into my mind, I consciously pushed it away. I could no longer look at the case impersonally. After the first sight of Mrs. Manderson sitting on this very rock while she gazed at the sea, I knew that she could be motive enough, innocent or not, for any deed, good or bad.
This came for you last night.
What? Why, you in the habit of skulking up on people? Why, I almost lost my footing.
Be more careful. It's a long way down.
Well, what are you waiting for? Surely you don't expect me to thank you for withholding my telegram since last night?
You weren't here. You didn't expect me to chase over the countryside looking for you.
All right. Thank you.
I imagine you'll be leaving Bishopsbridge, Trent. The inquest jury returned a verdict of murder by persons unknown. Inspector Murch believes the crime was committed by a crank.
You're a veritable storehouse of information, Marlowe. And now, if you'll excuse me. When Marlowe left me, I tore open the telegram. Response to your inquiry, John Marlowe, member of Dramatic Society. Excellent in roles calling for disguise and vocal impersonations. I knew what I had to do, and I approached my task with the deepest pain and gloom.
Mr. Trent, I didn't realize you'd come in. Forgive my playing. The piano is my only release.
No, please, continue.
Aren't you feeling well? Perhaps some brandy.
No, thank you, Mrs. Manderson. I've written the story of this case and addressed it to the publisher of the record. It's all here in this envelope. It contains certain things which I have concluded about your husband's death.
Oh?
Things not suspected by anyone else. Mrs. Manderson, I am not free to suppress this evidence on a mere whim. I want the truth.
Are you asking me if I perjured myself at the inquest?
Since I have a passion for truth, I do not attend inquests. But you knew why your husband changed his attitude towards you in the month or so preceding his death?
What have you found out?
I want you to tell me.
All right. He knew that I was weary of life with him. The constant parties, business conferences, scheming, complicated plans for amalgamations, corporations, which went on constantly. I couldn't ask him to pass the butter at dinner without getting the latest market prices on that commodity. I refused to attend his dinners. I wouldn't play hostess any longer at his dull parties. That is why his attitude changed.
There was no talk of divorce?
None.
Did you plan to continue living with him?
Why do you ask me that?
I know that your husband became contemptuous of you because of John Marlowe. There, you have the envelope. Send it to the record or withhold it as you choose. I'm done with this. This is my last case. I watched her trembling hands tear open the envelope and extract the story. The story that told how Marlowe had shot Manderson at 11 o'clock, had impersonated him at midnight, had worn the dead man's shoes to cover up his own footprints, and had been in such haste that he neglected to tie the laces when he returned them to the feet of the murdered man. I dared not guess how deeply Mrs. Manderson was involved in the plot, besides being the motive for it. I wanted to be done with the affair and get as far away as possible from the woman who now stood so near to me.
I can't send this off, Mr. Trent.
I'm sure you have good reason.
The best. You are wrong.
Impossible. I can prove that Marlowe masqueraded as your husband.
Oh, listen, please. My husband sent Marlowe off to see a man who never existed. In the package addressed to the mythical Mr. Harris was my husband's wallet with £5,000 and the pouch of diamonds. He intended only to wound himself and then have Mr. Marlowe arrested for theft and attempted murder. Like you, my husband suspected there was something between Marlowe and me. There never was.
Oh, Mrs. Manderson.
When Marlowe started to drive off, he heard the shot and drove back. My husband was dead. A suicide. He realized then what my husband had planned. He replaced the wallet and diamonds in the pockets, then borrowed the shoes for reasons you guessed. They were torn because Marlowe's feet were a little too large for them.
But you said you had seen Manderson at midnight.
I said I had heard his voice. Marlowe's a good impersonator. He was trying to protect himself and me.
Now, Mrs. Manderson, I couldn't have been that far from the solution.
You were even further away, Trent.
Why, Couples.
Manderson was not a suicide.
What?
I killed him.
Oh, this is too ridiculous.
I was out walking that night. I saw Marlowe drive off. Then I came upon Manderson just as he was about to shoot himself. I tried to stop him. We struggled. And during the struggle, the gun went off accidentally.
How could I have been so wrong?
I think I know why. Your talents must be better suited to reporting than the detective business.
My dear Mrs. Manderson, I couldn't agree with you more. This, I vow, shall be Trent's last case.
Suspense. Presented by Autolite. Tonight's star, Mr. Ronald Coleman.
This is Harlow Wilcox speaking for Autolite, the world's largest independent manufacturer of automotive electrical equipment. In 28 plants from coast to coast, Autolite makes over 400 products for cars, trucks, tractors, planes, boats, and industry. These products include dial indicating and recording thermometers, bumpers, die castings, and batteries such as the famous Autolite Stay Full, ignition-engineered Autolite spark plugs, both standard and resistor types, voltage regulators, wire and battery cable, Autolite bullseye sealed beam units, and Autolite original service parts for all Autolite electrical systems. Autolite is proud to serve the greatest names in the industry. So, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
Next week, we combine fact and fiction. The fact, the murder of Mary Cecilia Rogers. The fiction, Edgar Allan Poe's solution of that crime. The mystery of Marie Roget. Our star, Mr. Cornell Wilde. That's next week on Suspense. Suspense is produced and directed by Elliot Lewis, with music composed by Lucian Morwick and conducted by Lud Gluskin. E.C. Bentley's Trent's Last Case was adapted for Suspense by Oliver Gard. Featured in tonight's cast were Ellen Morgan, Joseph Kearns, Richard Peel, Gloria Ann Simpson, and William Johnstone. And remember next week, Mr. Cornell Wilde in Edgar Allan Poe's The Mystery of Marie Roget.
You can buy Autolite standard or resistor-type spark plugs, Autolite original service parts, and Autolite Stay Full batteries at your neighborhood Autolite dealers. Switch to Autolite. Good night.
This is the CBS Radio Network.
Autolite and its 98,000 dealers bring you Mr. Cornell Wilde in tonight's presentation of Suspense.
Tonight, Autolite combines fact and fiction. The fact, the murder of Mary Cecilia Rogers in New York City. The fiction, Edgar Allan Poe's solution of that crime, which he called The Mystery of Marie Roget. Our star, Mr. Cornell Wilde.
You seen any Indians around, Harlow? now. Engines, Sheriff? Why, I've seen thousands of engines, all equipped with Autolite stay-full batteries for purring, powerful, and pleasing starts in all kinds of weather.
Well, these engines are off the reservation. And,
there are no reservations about an Autolite stay-full battery. It states right on the case, needs water only 3 times a year in normal car use.
Well, these engines didn't like life on the reservation.
Life? Why, the Autolite stay-full battery has long life. Fiberglass retaining mats protect the power of every positive plate to reduce shedding and flaking and give that Autolite stay-full longer life, as proved by tests conducted according to accepted life cycle standards. To quickly locate your nearest Autolite battery dealer who services all makes of batteries, just call Western Union by number and ask for Operator 25.
I'll tell you where you can get an Autolite Stay Full, the battery that needs water only 3 times a year in normal car use.
And remember, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
Mary Cecilia Rogers was murdered in the vicinity of New York City in the summer of 1842. It was still an unsolved crime in November when The Mystery of Marie Roqet was published. The author, Edgar Allan Poe. It paralleled in every essential detail the murder of Mary Rogers. Poe wrote it far from the scene of the atrocity, with only the newspaper reports of the day. Nevertheless, the subsequent confession connected with the murder of Mary Rogers confirmed not only the killer named by Poe, but all the chief details by which he arrived at his identification. And now, Autolite presents transcribed Edgar Allan Poe's Mystery of Marie Roqet, starring Mr. Cornell Wilde, hoping once again to keep you in suspense.
Good evening. My name is Dupin. I should like to extend an invitation. Regard first a certain event which truly occurred in New York City on a warm summer night in 1842. Secondly, I invite you to employ your imagination and displace that same event intact with all of the essential facts to a cobbled, old-world Paris on an identical, warm, and fragrant summer night in the same year. Lastly, and most interesting, I should like to invite you to attend that event. It is a murder. The general design and mental character of the atrocity, indeed, the first knowledge of its occurrence, came to my attention on Wednesday night, the 25th day of June. Who is the prefect of police?
I am, monsieur. Dupin?
Yes, monsieur.
Oh, thank you for coming, monsieur. I wasn't certain my messenger would find you. This way, monsieur.
Please.
Andre, the lantern for Monsieur Dupin.
She died harshly.
Yes. Beaten, choked, drowned. Oh, yes, quite harshly.
She was beautiful, monsieur.
Once, perhaps, yes.
Still, Mademoiselle what? In life she had a name, in death she must also have a name. Any of you?
I have asked, monsieur, but none of them know her. But her clothes and jewels say she was known Dupin. Good clothes, torn and disordered in her terrible struggle, but good. And the jewelry, not expensive, but tasteful. This woman, in my opinion, Dupin, was known.
And loved, Monsieur the Prefect.
No doubt. Dupin, this is why I sent for you. I've been through these things before. The newspapers will write stories, the reporters will make conjecture. Although there is no name for her now, there will eventually be a name. And then, monsieur, I will be called upon to produce her assassins. There is so little to go on. The eyes of the public will be upon me, and my honor is at stake.
And my honor, too, monsieur, if I am involved in the investigation.
Dupin, listen. There is a fund at the prefecture, a sizable fund which I am authorized to use when circumstances arise. For your services, I am willing to make a direct and liberal proposition. Dupin, you will help me find the answer to this woman's death.
I cannot refuse.
No foam about the mouth, as in the case of the merely drowned, monsieur. Here, bruises, impressions of fingers. It was a strangulation by hand and by this cord, monsieur.
Yes. Doctor?
Yes, Dupin?
An ingenious knot in that cord, don't you think? Now, this is a slip knot. A sailor's knot.
Sailor's knot. She was found in water. Why did she die, monsieur?
For her beauty, perhaps. For her love. Her hate. It was Sunday. Observe, Doctor. There are no marks to prove she was weighted and then shaken loose. Yes, she quit life on Sunday. Murdered in the dark. Thrown into the river. Unweighted. Monday. Tuesday, she remained, as a corpse will, on the bottom. And then on the third day, tonight, as a corpse will, she rose, and the fishermen saw her.
It is the way of corpses violently made so.
Not only violent, but quick. Near the riverbank, somewhere. For what assassins could carry a burden like this, long undiscovered?
From a dark bridge, perhaps?
No. Too much light and people. There had to be a boat, Doctor. If she was dropped from a bridge, or pushed in from the shore, the current might press her aside to be caught in the vegetation of the shallow water. She was murdered on the bank and then taken out to her grave in a boat. And there had to be a man who knew how to handle a boat in the tricky current.
Who is there?
It is I, the prefect. I have someone who thinks he may know her.
Come in, monsieur.
Ahead of me, please. With your permission, Doctor, Monsieur Dupin. Monsieur Beauvais, monsieur.
How do you do?
Monsieur Beauvais has been searching since Monday for news of a Marie Roqet. Mademoiselle Roqet is an employee of Monsieur Beauvais. Correct, monsieur?
Correct. I am a parfumer. I called on her mother, Madame Roqet, Monday when Mary did not appear at my shop. Madame informed me that Mary had left Sunday morning to visit her aunt at Rue des Drômes. She has not yet returned.
I see. And what else?
I cannot say, monsieur. So far, I have ascertained that she never arrived at Rue des Drômes. And, indeed, no one has seen her since Sunday.
Can you describe Marie Roqet?
But, of course. Dark hair, almost black. Dark eyes, tall, young, vibrant. A woman, monsieur, of great promise. Jacques Saint-Eustache, the last to see her, mentioned to me that mademoiselle wore a frock of fine muslin, deep blue. I knew it well. A bonnet to match goes with it.
Who is Jacques Saint-Eustache, Beauvais?
Monsieur Saint-Eustache is the accepted tutor of Marie Roqet. He lodges and takes meals at the pension kept by Madame Roqet. He was to have gone for his betrothed at dusk Sunday and to have escorted her home. In the afternoon it rained heavily, and supposing that she would remain at her aunt's, he did not think it necessary to keep his promise. She has stayed there under similar circumstances.
And where is Jacques Saint-Eustache at this moment?
Searching, and anxious as I am for Marie Roqet.
It is 3 days since Sunday. 4 days, really, but 3 that Marie Roqet has been considered missing. Your search is tardy.
I know, monsieur.
Well?
I am at your mercy. She has disappeared twice. The first time she disappeared was about 3 years ago. Her mother, her friends were unable to account for her disappearance. I was distracted with anxiety and terror.
Did you notify the police?
In that case, immediately, monsieur. But suddenly, Mary reappeared one fine morning after being absent a week. She was in good health and, well, with somewhat a saddened air. She explained she had spent the missing week with a relative in the country. Madame Roqet, who was, and still is, infirm, recalled this to be a fact. And the matter was forgotten until now.
So you did not call the police this second time she disappeared?
What has happened once can happen again.
What did happen that week she was away?
I do not know. I do not honestly know.
But you doubt the story of visiting a relative?
I will not say.
Show him what we have, Doctor.
If you will kindly step over here, Monsieur Beauvais. Now, Monsieur Beauvais, if you please. Do you know this woman, monsieur?
It is her. It is Marie Roqet. It is her. Poor little Marie.
Why does Beauvais cry, Dupin? The girl only worked for him. He has not told us all. He is suspect, Dupin, and I will have a word with him.
Stay.
But Dupin, why does he weep for a shop girl, a grisette who was promised to another?
He weeps for youth and beauty.
Yes, monsieur?
I am Dupin, Madame Roqet. May I come in?
Oh, come.
No, please sit, madame. I understand you are not well.
I have been invalid 10 years now.
I will not consume a great deal of time. May I ask, did your daughter often visit relatives in other distant parts of the city?
Often.
And stay overnight?
Often.
With your approval, madame?
She was and has been free of me since her 16th year.
That is a very frank answer, madame.
I can tell you nothing of what has happened to her. She leaves me on a morning with no enemies I know of.
And do you know of her friends?
I understand the intention of your remark. You refer to those besides Jacques. No, I know of none.
I understand that Jacques Saint-Eustache keeps rooms here. That is true?
Yes, but he is no longer here. He left once he was informed of Marie's death. Where, I do not know.
But surely he understood that we would be by to question him?
He was beside himself with grief. I cannot blame him.
I see.
Oh, I have been of no assistance where I would like to be. And yet, I knew something that morning. I knew she would not come back to her mama again.
You knew she would not be back, madame? Did she take clothes, bid a longer goodbye? How did you know?
I knew, monsieur. Death was very close to her that day.
If you knew this, madame, why did you allow her to venture out?
I stop her? No. If it is not met, death will arrange a meeting. If the meeting had been here, death might have visited me, too. And I am yet afraid to die.
Is bringing you Mr. Cornell Wilde in Edgar Allan Poe's The Mystery of Marie Roqet. Tonight's presentation in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
I got him, Harlow.
An Indian, Sheriff?
Nope. An Autolite Stay Full. The battery that says right on the case, needs water only 3 times a year in normal car use. That's the brand of battery for my car, by Ginger.
You mean buy Autolite Stay Full batteries and you buy Ginger and Pep for a fast, dependable start every time. Fiberglass retaining mats surround each positive plate to reduce shedding and flaking and give the Autolite Stay Full longer life, as proved by life cycle standards.
Oh, sounds like you couldn't buy a better battery with a pocket full of nuggets.
So, friends, see your expert Autolite battery dealer for an Autolite Stay Full, the battery that needs water only 3 times a year in normal car use. To quickly locate your nearest Autolite battery dealer, who services all makes of batteries, phone Western Union by number and ask for operator 25.
That's right. I'll gladly tell you the location of your nearest Autolite battery dealer.
And remember, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
And now, Autolite brings back to our Hollywood soundstage Mr. Cornell Wilde in Elliot Lewis's production of Edgar Allan Poe's The Mystery of Marie Roqet, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Dupin, again. You will recall the event we have been attending in Paris. I invite you now to keep in mind the solemn fact that Marie Roqet died violently, that her lover, Jacques Saint-Eustache, is missing. Where she died, who administered her death, for what reason, remain to be known. Attend at this point another event, if you will, which was arranged by that zealous and righteous man, the prefect of police.
Thank you for coming, Dupin.
You have located the lover, Saint-Eustache?
Saint-Eustache? Oh, he's unimportant, I assure you. Somewhere right now he drinks and tries to forget. But what I have here is important, most important. Madame Dulac, if you please.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening.
This is Madame Dulac. She has something of interest to tell you. And I have something of interest to show you.
Good evening, Madame.
I have maintained this tavern many years, right here, close to the bank of the river.
No fear with me, Madame. I have no authority to do anything but respect your person and your thoughts.
Oh.
What is this information?
I saw a young woman here Sunday. Monsieur says it was Marie Roqet.
It was, definitely.
Just a moment. Sunday, Madame?
Yes. Mid-afternoon, later perhaps.
Where?
Right here in my tavern. She arrived accompanied by a young man of dark, swarthy complexion. The two remained here for some time. On their departure, they took the road through some thick woods that way.
Toward the river, Dupin. And this is a secluded neighborhood. Go on, madame. Go on.
Soon after they left, a gang of miscreants made their appearance at my place of business. They behaved boisterously. They ate and drank without payment. Then left and followed the route of the young girl and the young man that same way.
I see.
About dusk, the same gang reappeared, and we crossed the river in great haste.
I see. And you are certain it was Marie Roqet?
Never fear. My men spoke with an unnoticed driver, a man named Valence, who knew Marie Roqet. He claims he saw her cross the Seine on the Sunday afternoon in question with the swarthy man who fits the exact description of Madame.
And what else, monsieur?
Oh, I will show you. Come.
I followed him through the back of the tavern into the thick woods which line the Seine at that point. He stopped when we had come to a close thicket, within which were 3 or 4 large stones, forming a kind of seat with a back and footstool.
Note, Dupin, a white petticoat here. Here, a silk scarf, parasol, gloves, pocket handkerchief. Inspect the handkerchief, Dupin.
Thank you.
You note the name Marie Roqet embroidered there?
Yes. So this is the place she met her death.
Well, of course it is. I have found it. Look, the earth is trampled where she struggled, and over here, the bushes still broken. Every evidence of a terrible struggle. And here, the fence has been taken down, and the ground shows that some heavy burden was dragged along it toward the river. Well, come, look for yourself. What say you now?
I am wondering.
Wonder? Well, we have facts now, sir, important facts. Do you recall a strip of one of the unfortunate girl's petticoat had been tied about her mouth, probably to prevent her screams?
I do.
This was done by fellows who had no pocket handkerchiefs. Miscreants, Dupin. Miscreants, such as those who visited Madame Dulac's tavern and later went the same way as Marie Roqet and her companion. There are many such gangs about here. All we have to do is locate them. And I know how to do that.
That night, the shrill cries of the Paris newsboys proclaimed the prefect's resolve. He offered a reward of 20,000 francs and a full pardon for any king's evidence. It was an accepted conclusion that Marie Roqet had been waylaid and slain by a gang of miscreants in the vicinity of Madame Dulac's tavern.
Well, are you defeated, Monsieur Dupin? Now that I have solved the mystery of Marie Roqet?
No, monsieur.
Oh, I have doubled the reward. Soon one of the miscreants will come forward, then you'll see. 40,000 francs should be temptation enough.
20,000 was temptation enough.
Huh?
No one will come forward, monsieur. A gang, such as is hoped for, would be composed of men who have never seen more than 100 francs at one time. 20,000 would bring all of them, if they had any knowledge of Marie Roqet's murder.
Oh, they're just waiting. You know that.
Waiting? When each is in jeopardy because of the other?
We shall see, Dupin. Wait.
It was one man.
Huh?
A man who dragged the body of Mademoiselle to the river's edge. A gang, even two men, could have carried it. A gang would have lifted it over the fence easily, instead of taking a fence down, as it was taken down. One man labored hard.
Well, my conjecture is as good as yours. Are you talking of Saint-Eustache?
No. No. He is quite unguilty. Monsieur, allow me to point out that the newspapers, the police, all have identified themselves with what apparently happened. We must consider what did not happen. First, a gang did not set upon her and murder her. Secondly, Marie Roqet had no intention of visiting her aunt at Rue des Drômes when she left her mother and lover last Sunday morning.
Dupin, if you have confident information, explain yourself.
I have the same information as you. Nothing else.
You said she had no intention of visiting her aunt that day. Why do you say that?
Monsieur, consider what might have happened if her intended, Jacques Saint-Eustache, had called for her at her aunt's and discovered she was not there, that she had not been there all day. He would have been chagrined, suspicious, angry. Saint-Eustache would have been all these. Something for Marie Roqet to worry about when she returned home. But nothing to worry about if Marie did not intend to return home.
Point to consider, perhaps. Go on.
Consider that she kept a rendezvous instead. This we know. A rendezvous with a swarthy man. We have been told that by two witnesses who saw him. Now, monsieur, I ask you, as I have asked myself, did this swarthy companion allow Marie to be slain before his eyes? Or was he himself slain trying to help her? If so, where is his body?
Well, he left her before she was set upon, obviously.
Did he leave her alone in such a dark district?
They quarreled.
Indeed they did. Another question. Marie Roqet's death is known everywhere in France. Why has he not come forward to help us clear up the mystery?
Many reasons. Perhaps he's married. He's left. He's uninformed.
He has a swarthy complexion. A sea complexion. A well-attested fact. Now, accumulate that with the cord that was tied about her neck in a sailor's knot.
Monsieur Dupin, I have not the...
And the need of a skilled boatman to handle a boat on the river to dispose of the body.
But it could be anyone.
No, it could not.
Huh?
Marie Roqet was a gay, not an abject girl. No common seaman for her. An officer, a naval officer, monsieur. Like the one who might have led her into a false elopement the first time she disappeared. 3 years pass. The approved time for a French man of war to consume encircling the globe. The officer returns, thinking of the same coquette, Marie Roqet. The same bargain. What he has managed to do once, he can do again. Marie meets him Sunday for this purpose. Then she thinks the better of an elopement and refuses to accompany him. Saint-Eustache has captured her love. Her former lover slays her in quick anger. He drags her body to the river, commandeers a boat.
Where do I find him?
On whatever ship has arrived from the world cruise.
His name? What is his name, Dupin?
Inquire for the name of the young officer who has applied for leave to get married.
But there must be many such among a ship's complement returning after a long cruise.
Agreed. But, Monsieur le Prefect, there is only one naval officer who has returned to his ship without a bride.
Andre! We leave at once for the naval yards.
It has been an interesting evening. And now I issue a last invitation, my friends. I invite you to retain all that you have heard and employ this time, instead of your imagination, your sense of reality. For Marie Roqet of Paris was truthfully Mary Rogers of New York. Let your reality move you back to New York City on a winter day some months after the event described. In the darkening afternoon, inside a gray stone building, I invite you to attend another event I think you will find significant.
Ensign Robert Bryant Wilson. You have been found guilty of the murder of Mary Cecilia Rogers. It is the judgment of this court that you be hanged by the neck until you are dead.
Suspense. Presented by Autolite. Tonight's star, Mr. Cornell Wilde.
This is Harlow Wilcox speaking for Autolite, the world's largest independent manufacturer of automotive electrical equipment. In 28 plants from coast to coast, Autolite makes over 400 products for cars, trucks, tractors, planes, boats, and industry. These products include bumpers, die castings, industrial thermometers, and batteries, such as the famous Autolite Stay Full, ignition-engineered Autolite spark plugs, both standard and resistor types, voltage regulators, wire and battery cable, Autolite bullseye sealed beam units, and Autolite original service parts for all Autolite electrical systems. Autolite is proud to serve the greatest names in the industry. So, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
Next week, one of the most terrifying half hours ever presented on Suspense. A young couple and a mad woman. And what happened to them on a country road. Our star, Mr. Frank Lovejoy. That's next week on Suspense. Suspense is transcribed and directed by Elliot Lewis, with music composed by Lucian Morowick and conducted by Lud Gluskin. Edgar Allan Poe's The Mystery of Marie Roqet was adapted for Suspense by E. Jack Newman. In tonight's cast, John Daner was heard as the prefect of police. Others in the cast were Lou Merrill, Jeanette Nolan, Paula Winslow, William Johnstone, and Edgar Barrier. And remember, next week, Mr. Frank Lovejoy in On a Country Road.
You can buy Autolite Stay Full batteries, Autolite original service parts, and Autolite standard or resistor type spark plugs at your neighborhood Autolite dealers. Switch to Autolite. Good night.
This is the CBS Radio Network.
Arch Oboler's Plays. A Story in the Night. Tonight, James Cagney in Arch Oboler's dramatization of the most talked-of book of the year, Johnny Got His Gun, by Dalton Trumbull.
We tell you of Joe Bonham. 22 years ago, he went to war. They carried him back from that war. They carried him back because he had no arms, no legs, No ears with which to hear. No eyes with which to see. No mouth with which to speak. Today he lies alone in a room in a hospital close to your city. He's living flesh and he waits. Your world is shut off from Joe Bonham. He has only the world within his own mind. We tell you of Joe Bonham. These are the thoughts of a boy who 22 years ago went to war.
Somebody listen to me. I'm talking to you. Somebody listen to me. Gotta talk to somebody. It's dark and lonely. Somebody... No. Going out of my head again. How can you hear what ain't got a tongue? Ain't got a mouth? Ain't got... No. Won't think of that anymore. Gotta think of something, yeah. Something else. If I don't think... My head, yeah, quick, think about when I was a kid.
Hey, Joe, come on in swimming.
Yeah, swimming. When I was a kid, I went swimming. Dive in the river, feel the water against my legs and my arms. Now I haven't got any No, won't think of that. Think about my town.
It's the nicest little old place on earth, Shale City.
I gotta remember.
Hamburger, get your hot hamburger, get your hot hamburger.
Yeah, best hamburgers in the world.
All right, boy, here's 30 cents. Go down and get 3 hamburgers.
Pa.
Oh, they're delicious. If I could only cook like this.
Ma, No, don't think of her. Think about... County Fair.
See the lady cut in half the fourth part of $1.
Motorcycle rider, defying death inside is straight up and down, circular wall.
I can't remember anymore. I gotta remember. If I don't remember things, I'll think, and if I think... No. I gotta remember something. Something. Girls. Think about girls. Quick, think about girls.
Joe.
Karine?
Joe, I'm scared. I'm so scared.
No.
Kiss me. Hold me.
We shouldn't have turned the lights out. Your old man will be sore.
He understands.
Your lips.
Don't go. They'll kill you.
I gotta go. When you're drafted, you gotta.
Oh, Joe. Joe, I don't want you to go. Hold me. Tight. Maybe we'll never get another chance. Now, Joe. In your arms, Joe. In your arms. In your arms.
My arms. My arms.
What?
Joe, hold me. Don't go, Joe.
Get your gun.
Joe, I'm proud of you now. Don't go, Joe.
Theodore Roosevelt said. All aboard, soldier. All aboard, soldier.
No. Hold me, Joe. Hold me. Both your arms tight around me. Both your arms tight around me. Both your arms tight around me. Both your arms. No, stop.
My arms. I haven't got any arms. You hear me, Karine? I haven't got any arms. I haven't got any arms. What's the matter with me? I didn't find it out yesterday or the day before. It was
1939, 1938, 1937.
A long time ago.
Joe.
Karine, you're still in my head. I'll tell you, as if you were here. Here's how I found out everything about myself. I woke up like out of a dream. It was like I was in the water. I tried to swim, but I didn't have any arms. I started to kick my legs to float up in the air out of the bed, but I couldn't kick. I didn't have any legs. I threw my head back. I started to yell. I only started. But how can you yell when you haven't got them? I began to reach out, Karine. The only way I could reach out. With the nerves of my skin. The hole in my face. Feel the skin creeping around the edge of it. It went. I was blind. What a lousy dream. Nobody could live like that. Just dream and that's all. But it wasn't a dream. It wasn't a dream. Mother, where are you? Hurry, Mother, hurry, and wake me up. I'm having a nightmare, Mother, where are you? Mother, listen to me. I can't stand it. Mother, please, tell me it's not me. Not me, no, not me. Oh, please. That's the way I found out. A long time ago. Who was I telling that to?
Joe?
Oh, Karine. Still in my head. In my heart. Now I'll tell you about how I found out about time. About the days. Knowing about the days you're living through, that's important, see? But all I remembered was... dive in the dugout and then... that was all. A day in September 1918. And that's all. Time stopped then. Start time over again. But how could I catch hold of time when I was caught inside myself? Vibrations. I had it. When the nurse came into the room, the vibration of her footsteps running up through the floor, through the bed, through the springs of the bed, into me. All I had to do was count the seconds, then the minutes, then the hours between each visit she made, until I had 24 hours counted up in my head. And after that, I'd be able to figure the days out just by counting up her visits. One day, the minute the nurse left me, I began to count. 1, 2, 3, second by second, 4, second 5, by second. 6, when 7, I counted 60, 8, that 9, meant a minute, 10, as nearly as I was able to figure it. 13, but I always lost count. I'd think of something else, then I'd lose count again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, day after day after day, but I could never keep track. I couldn't. And all the time, the days were running away from me. And then, one day it happened. The skin on the side of my neck, the half of a fold above the mask. Lying there all the years gone by, I got to thinking that maybe there was some way I could use those pieces of skin. Skin free to the air. They were healthy. I got to thinking what a man did with his skin.
To feel with.
But that didn't seem enough.
To sweat with.
Yeah, sweat with. Hot and cold.
Sunrise and sunset.
Just like that. The idea came into my head just like that. All I had to do was to feel with my skin. When it changed from cool to warm on that little piece of skin, it'd be sunrise and the beginning of a day. I got to thinking about the nurse and how many visits she made me each day and when she made them. Yeah, I'd better start with the nurse. She changes the bedding. In a hospital, they must change bedding in the morning, maybe around 8 o'clock. So all I got to do is wait till she changes the bedclothes. That'll mean it's morning. Then wait, maybe 18, 20 hours, and that'll be next morning. That'll be sunrise. You can feel the heat of sunrise against your skin, yeah. So I waited until the next time she changed the bedding. She walked away. Calm down, because you haven't proved anything yet. Calm down and wait and count her visits. Number 2, I dozed off and woke. Visit number 3, time got all mixed up. Then 4, and then... the 5th time. Now all of a sudden, I knew it was happening. My heart stopped, my breath stopped. I knew it was happening. Slow at first, crawling along my skin. Warmer and warmer. The rising sun. In my room. I'd won. I'd caught up with time again. The sun. It was dawn. It was dawn for the world and for me. I could smell the dawn. Yeah, me without a face lying there, and the smell of the dew on the grass, and me without eyes, shading my eyes and seeing the sun coming up over the mountains back home, and the hills going pink and lavender like the inside of a seashell. The sun warming my little piece of skin, and me seeing without eyes the town where I was born, and me without ears hearing the lowing of the cows waiting to be milked, And babies kicking in their cribs and rubbing their eyes with their fists. It's sunrise, and I've got it. And now I'll always know when it's sunrise, and they can't take it away from me. Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I may never have anything else, but I'll always have dawn and the morning sunlight. A year went by fast. I was a busy guy. I learned a lot. Yeah, could even tell my nurses apart. The day nurse always walked to the bed with 4 steps. She was always the same, but the night nurses seemed to change. One of them must have cried when she looked at me. I felt her tears wet on me. I like to think she was young and beautiful. But every night, summer and winter, week in and week out, month in and month out, every night I was with you, Karine. With you, darling. My arms around you, yours around me. With you, Karine.
Joe, my darling.
Close to you.
My dearest.
My arms around you.
My lover.
And yours around me.
Mine.
With you, Karine.
Oh, Joe. Joe.
2 years went by after I discovered time. 3 years went by after I discovered time. The 4th year started awfully slow. One day I felt vibrations. Vibrations heavier and heavier, and then they stopped. I knew they were standing around the bed. After all these years, visitors. And all at once, crazy thoughts went through my head.
It may be your mother.
No.
Karine.
No, not Karine. Not Karine standing by my bed. You can't see me. Not this way. Not you, Karine. Go away. Go away, go away, go away, go away, go away. Then a hand came to rest on my forehead. A man's hand.
Doctors.
Yes. Maybe doctors come to examine me. Somebody was touching at my nightshirt over my left breast. The cloth fell back against my chest again. It was heavy now, weighed down by something. Medal. They given me a medal. Me, a medal. Me, a medal. Me! The generals were here, around my bed. The generals. The big guys, the famous guys who still had arms and legs and could still see and talk and smell and taste. In my throat, I felt a tearing of something that used to be a voice. I was talking to them, and they couldn't hear me. I was saying, listen, big guys, I'm lying here like a side of beef, and for what?
War. We're going to war.
Yeah, someone said that, so I went. But why? Why? Somebody just said,
let's go out and fight for liberty.
Liberty? What kind of liberty? How much liberty and whose idea of liberty? A guy says, come on, let's fight for liberty. And he can't show you liberty. If you're going to die for liberty, you've got to know in advance what liberty is and whose idea of liberty they're talking about and just how much of that liberty we're going to have. Maybe that's a bad way to think. The big guys say it's bad. I heard them. In the schools and the newspapers and the legislatures and the congresses. That's their business. They sound wonderful.
This ground is sanctified by blood. They shall not have died in vain. Our noble dead.
But I'm asking you, big guys, what do the dead say? Did any one of them ever come back and say...
I'm glad I'm dead, because death is always better than dishonor.
Did they say...
I'm glad I died to make the world safe for democracy.
Nobody but the dead know whether all these things people talk about are worth dying for or not. And the dead can't talk. So the words about noble death and sacred blood and honor and such are all put into dead lips by those that got no right to speak for the dead. I'm asking you, big guys, how did they feel about it just before they died? Did all those guys die thinking of democracy and freedom and liberty and honor? You know they didn't. They died crying in their minds like little kids. They died crying for the face of a friend. They died crying for the voice of a mother or father or wife or baby. They died moaning and crying for life. I know. I'm the nearest thing to a dead man on earth. There's nothing bigger than life. What's noble about having your legs and arms blown off? What's noble about being blind and deaf and dumb? I'm dead, big guys, and I died for nothing. You hear me? Nothing. You hear me, big guys? But they didn't hear me. Just as you couldn't hear me, Karine, if you were standing next to me. All the generals heard was the blowing of the air and the tube in my throat. When I heard the vibrations of the footsteps that said they were going, I began to think. The vibrations. Up to now, I thought only of the vibrations coming to me. How about making my vibrations go to them? Yes, vibrations to them. A footstep on the floor is a kind of vibration. The tap of a telegraph key is another kind. I had it. When I was a kid, Bill Harper and me, we had a telegraph set. Used to telegraph to each other. Dot dash, dot dash, dot dash, dot. I remember the code, the Morse code. All I had to do to break through to the people outside was to lie in bed and dot dash to the nurse. I could give messages and receive messages. I raised my head from my pillow. I dropped it. Then I did it twice quickly. That was it. With my head, raised my head, let it fall on the pillow. The Morse code. SOS, help. I tapped it out of my pillow with my head. SOS. All over the world, that meant help. SOS. Help. Then the door of the room jarred open and the nurse's footsteps came up to the bed. SOS. SOS. Over and over again. She was looking at me. I knew it. SOS. Help me. SOS. Help me. SOS. Oh, why can't you understand? SOS. Help me. SOS. Help me. SOS. SOS.
Help me. SOS. Help me.
My head full of it. Tapping it out with my head over and over. Over and over. Couldn't stop. Why won't they hear me? Why won't they understand? Why won't they hear me? Karine, why? No. There isn't any, Karine. There isn't nothing. I've been talking in my head. There's nothing for me. Nothing.
SOS.
I don't know what day it is.
SOS.
I don't know what month it is. I don't know what year it is. I've been tapping for years and years and nobody hears me. Nobody. Someone's come into the room. Footstep light. My regular day nurse. Hers are heavy. Who is this one? Start tapping now. What? What is this one doing? Opening the nightshirt. She's moving the tip of her finger against my skin. What? Huh? Drawing something. Huh. I know. The letter M. I know. Shake my head. Yes, I know. I understand. It's M. Wonderful M. Writing something else on my skin. E. Yes, I got that. R. Yes. Another R. Yes. Now what? Why? Nothing more. M-E-R-R-Y. Mary. Writing again. C-H-R-I-S-T-M-A-S. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, nurse, I understand. Nodding my head to tell you I understand. I can't say it so you can hear me, but in my heart I'm saying it. Merry Christmas, nurse. God bless you. Bells in my town. I'm hearing them in my head, nurse.
'Twas the night before Christmas.
Mother.
And all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
Mother, I hear you.
Stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in a hope that St. Nicholas soon would be there.
Every Christmas Eve, I remember.
He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like down from a thistle. But I heard him explain ere he drove out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Merry Christmas, Mother. Merry Christmas, Mother. Nurse. New nurse. Smart nurse. She'll pay attention to me. Old nurse didn't understand. New nurse, you've got to understand. Tapping, I'll start. There, nurse. I did it. Did you understand it? 3, 2, and 3. S-O-S. Did you understand it? I'll do it again. Morse code. You understand? Morse code. Watch, nurse, watch. If I had a tongue, if I had a mouth, I'd yell it at you. I'd scream it at you. But I have nothing but the tapping of my head, so watch, nurse, watch. If you turn and walk out of the room and never come back, you will be carrying my life with you. You're life and death to me, nurse. Look, I'll tap it again. See? S-O-S. Help me. S-O-S. Oh, I'll do it again. I'm praying now, nurse. Me, just an ordinary guy, I'm praying. Oh, please, God, make her understand what I'm trying to tell her. Please, God, make her understand. I know you're a busy guy. I know there are millions of people praying to you every minute. I know all these things, God, and I don't blame you for getting behind in your orders. Nobody's perfect, but what I want is such a little thing. All I want you to do is to take a tiny little idea that's in my mind and put it in her mind 2, maybe 3 feet away. That's all I want, God. Just a little idea that's in my mind and put it in her mind. It's such a little thing, God. Such a little thing. She's going away. She's gone out of the room. No, can't be true. Can't shove me down under the ground again, bury me deep again. No, I won't believe it, I won't. I won't start crying now. She'll come back. She's my life. She's my chance at life. She will come back. She will. Door. She's back. Brought someone with her. Man's finger on my head. What? Finger tapping on my head. Tapping out W. H. Tapping out the code on my head. A. T. W. H. A. T. What? D. O. Y. O. U. Y. O. U. U. W. A. N. T. W. A. N. T. What do you want? What do I want? What do I want? What do I want? I want to get out. Let me out, that's all I want. I've been lying here for years and years in a room in a bed with a little covering of skin. Now I want out. I've got to get out. If I had legs, I could run away. I could get away. I could get out into the open where there's air, where there's room, where I'm not in a hole and smothering. Inside me, I scream and howl and push and fight for room and air, for escape from the smothering, from the loneliness. Let me out of here and take me back into the world. No, I didn't tap that out. What I just said, I only was thinking. Won't say it to you waiting up there, no. Before I ask you up there, before I tap it out with my head, I've got to think out just what I'm going to tell you. It may be my last chance. I've got it. Listen, you up there. I'm tapping it out with my head. Let me out of here. Let me out. I can earn my keep. I can do a job like anyone else. Take me out of here and build a glass case for me so people can see me. Take me in my glass case to the beaches, to the county fairs and the church bazaars and the circuses and the traveling carnivals. You'll do a wonderful business with me, and I could pay you for the trouble. They've never seen nothing like me. I'm something you can really holler about. I'm the dead man who's alive. The live man who's dead. I'm the man who made the world safe for democracy. Take me into the places where men work and make things. Take me there and say, boys, here's a cheap way to get by. Maybe times are bad and your salaries are low. Don't worry, boys, because you'll have your chance. There'll be another war along pretty soon, and then maybe you'll be lucky like me. Take me into the schoolhouses, all the schoolhouses in the world. They'll scream at first and have nightmares at night, but they'll get used to it because they've got to get used to it. And it's best to start them young. Take me into the colleges and universities and academies and convents. Call the girls together, all the healthy, beautiful young girls. Point to me and say, "Girls, here is your father. Look, girls, here is your lover." Call all the young men together and say, "Here is your brother, here is your best friend, and here are you, young men." Take me wherever there are parliaments and diets and congresses and chambers of statesmen. I want to be there when they talk about honor and justice and making the world safe. Put my glass case upon the speaker's desk, and every time the gavel drops, let me feel its vibration through my little glass case. Then let them draft notes and ultimatums, tests and accusations. But before they vote on them, before they give the order for all the little guys to start killing each other, let the main guy rap his gavel on my case and point down at me and say, "Gentlemen, here is the only issue before this House, and that is, are you for this thing here, or are you against it? And if they are against it, then let them stand up like men and vote. And if they are for it, let them be hanged and drawn and quartered and paraded through the streets and thrown out into the fields where no clean animal will touch them, and may no green thing ever grow where they rot." Take me into your churches, your great towering cathedrals, which have to be rebuilt every 50 years because they are destroyed by war. Carry me in my glass box down the aisles where kings and priests and brides and children at their confirmations have gone so many times before to kiss a splinter of wood from a true cross on which was nailed the body of a man who was lucky enough to die. Set me high on your altars and call on God to look down upon his murderous little children, his dearly beloved little children. Then bring in the fierce ones, the spawners of hate, the inventors of slogans. Bring them in and make them look at me, and then dare them to break the peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have brought you James Cagney playing the leading role in Dalton Trumbo's memorable novel of the year, Johnny Got His Gun. The book was dramatized for radio by Arch Oboler. The musical score was written, conducted by Gordon Jenkins. Mr. Cagney can now be seen in the Warner Brothers picture The Fighting 69th and in the forthcoming production Torrid Zone. In preparation is City of Conquest. The book Johnny Got His Gun is the prize-winning novel by Dalton Trumbo. All of us want to thank Mr. Cagney and Mr. Trumbo for their great contribution to this program. Next week, it is our pleasure to present an actor known and respected by all of us, Mr. Ronald Colman, in an unusual play, The Most Dangerous Game. Next week, then, Mr. Ronald Colman. Arch Oboler's plays are a presentation of the National Broadcasting Company. Tonight's play came to you from Hollywood's Radio City. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
This is Orson Welles, speaking from London. The Black Museum, a repository of death. Yes, here in the grim stone structure on the Thames which houses Scotland Yard is a warehouse of homicide, where everyday objects, a kitchen knife, a roller skate, a violin string, all are touched by murder. There's a .32 caliber bullet. It's a familiar object. Brass cartridge case, snub leaden nose. Not very pretty to look at.
Interesting, this bullet, Sergeant. Notice the back of the cartridge case?
Yes, sir. It's for a centre-fire weapon. The firing pin of the pistol must strike the centre of the cartridge.
Right. But the weapon in which we found this bullet was a rim-fire revolver. The firing pin could strike only the edge of the cartridge. That little fact, Sergeant, saved at least one life, I'd say.
Well, today, that center-fire bullet can be seen in the Black Museum.
From the annals of the Criminal Investigation Department of the London Police, we bring you the dramatic stories of the crimes recorded by the objects in Scotland Yard's Gallery of Death, the Black Museum.
Here we are, the Black Museum. Scotland Yard's museum. A museum of murder. Here lies death. So orderly, so well kept. Row and row. A macabre record of the violence of many generations. Each object in its place, each marked, tagged, carded with name and place and date. Each object in this room enjoyed in its life one supreme moment when the eyes of the world were upon it. And it played its silent part in a case of murder. And here we are. Here's a jeweled ring, fit for a princess, but born of a mind like the Borgias. Press the jewel, so, and a tiny point licks out, a fang, dripping death. Shake hands with your enemy. Shortly thereafter, he dies. A bathtub. Yes, a bathtub. White, smooth, shining in the dimness. Once a man floated face down in this tub. He slipped or he had been pushed. Was the mark on his skull caused by striking his head as he slipped, or by a blunt weapon? In any case, he drowned. I see. The .32 caliber bullet. Even here, lying so quietly, so somberly, it's ugly. This object was made for killing. As a matter of fact, it never did kill. That's the story. It began on a London street. A dark sedan drove slowly into the stream of traffic. And 3 young women in it. One seems quite a bit younger than the other. Even so, the car continues to cruise along.
You got everything straight, Rod? Sure. Do you think I'm a goon?
You just want to be sure, kid. That's all. Now, what did we tell you?
I'll stay in the car till you wigwag is all clear. Then I'll go in with you. Hey, there's a chance to park the old bus. Kiki? Watch the fenders now. Wouldn't want nobody to ask for your license at a time like this, eh?
Matty Lee.
Sure, Jack, sure. Just kidding him, that's all. What's the matter? You edgy?
Cold as ice, that's me.
Yeah. Ice is what we're going to get. All set. Let's go.
2 young men leave an automobile, stroll up the street, hands in pockets, cigarettes dangling loosely from their mouths. They walk past a busy jewelry store.
Pretty crowded. Maybe we ought to wait.
Could be. No use taking chances.
They stroll a few steps farther on. They turn, start back, quite casually.
Hey, what's the kid doing? Oh, the guy's going into the store. Come on. A goon must have hoped we made the signal. Got your gun? What else? Slow down now. Here we go. Rod, what's the idea? You wigwagged, didn't you? Never mind. Let's do it.
Right.
All right, everybody. This is a hold-up. Over against the wall. Everybody. These guns are loaded.
No! You don't take my stuff! No!
Shut up, you. Quiet. Anybody talks, I'll give it to him. Rod, grab the junk on the counters. You there. Stand still. Stop the button. Rod, the car. Start the engine. Ready. Straight.
Stop there! Please!
Hey, in that store! Matty, Jack, the truck. It's double parked. We can't get the car out. We're stuck behind that truck. Run for it, kid. That way. I can't get the car out. I can't. Come on, Jack. Get moving.
Stop, you! Stop! You're the thief! Stop!
Get out of my way, you!
I've got you! Please!
Now it's in the fire! Run, Matty!
man lay dead on the sidewalk. The crowd milled around him. The black sedan stayed in its place. 3 young men disappeared in the teeming streets, disappeared completely and utterly. A few hours later, in a quiet office in Scotland Yard, Inspector Bowers and Detective Sergeant Wood looked at what they had.
Not very much of anything, have we, Sergeant?
No, sir. Descriptions which could be any of 100 men and 2 bullets.
A 45 bullet from the woodwork in the jewelry store, and the 32 which killed that fellow.
With no guns to go with them.
Well, if those boys were smart at all, they'd ditch the guns.
Funny, you'd expect a lot more shooting in a thing like that.
They were conserving ammunition. Oh, well, I don't know. Circularize the descriptions, what there is of them. That's about all for the moment.
Yes, sir. 3 men, youngish, white handkerchiefs over.
And that was all. Now, where do you start among 8 million people searching for 3 youngish men who may be miles away by now? Well, the answer is you don't start. You wait. You have patience. And sometimes your patience is rewarded. Sometimes sooner than you expect.
This is Wilson, Inspector. He's the cabbie who called in this morning.
Ah, how do you do, Wilson? Sit down.
Thank you, sir. Thanks very much.
Wilson may have something on the jewellery store killing, sir.
Yes, well, let's hear it, Wilson.
Well, sir, I never thought about it until I seen the papers this morning. All about the hold-up and that poor fellow got himself killed yesterday.
Yes, go on, Wilson.
Well, sir, I was taking my cab along Queensbury Road, about a block from the place where it all happened, when a fellow with a white thing round his neck hops on the running board. Not a fare, so I waves him off. Now, I see him going to that big building, the Brook Building, I think it is, sir. Corner of Queensbury and Mason.
You're certain of this, Wilson?
Oh, yes, sir.
Anything else?
I'm not so sure of this, Inspector, but I think I saw another fellow run in the building after the one what jumped onto my cab.
Oh, very good, Wilson. Well, you may have been quite helpful. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Get your hat, Sergeant. We're going exploring.
The reward of patience. And sooner than expected, but only a bare and vague beginning. This kind of investigation takes long hours and hard work. And endless questions. Up and down the hallways of the large office building, in and out of business offices.
Did you notice any commotion in the hall yesterday around 3 o'clock?
Did a man with a white scarf around his neck take your elevator around 3 o'clock yesterday?
Did you hear any running or anything like that around 3 o'clock yesterday?
On and on, upstairs, downstairs, nothing. No one noticed anything, nothing irregular, no commotion. What was that? Did the porter notice anything?
2 fellows. One of them had a raincoat, I think. Both of them had white rags round their collars, sort of.
Oh, you're sure of this?
Oh, yes, sir. They seemed in a hurry, sort of.
Where did they go?
Which office, you mean?
That's right.
Well, I wouldn't know, sir. They went up the stairs just as I was putting some empty waste cans on the service lift.
Oh, did you see the men again?
Well, now you mention it, yes, sir, I did.
Where?
On the 3rd floor it was. I was taking my mop to the hall. One of them was sort of half sitting on the stair rail. The other fellow was looking out of the hall window that opens onto Queensbury, sir. They didn't have the white rags, sir, but they were the same fellows.
Anything else?
No, sir, not that I remember. Oh, Bob Saunders might know something, Inspector.
Oh, who's this Saunders?
Well, he drives a van, sir. He's been making deliveries to this place every afternoon for years.
Ah, thank you. Right, well, let's go, Sergeant. Maybe Mr. Saunders does know something. We have your address.
They reached the street outside, just as a large, rather decrepit truck, driven by an equally decrepit elderly man, pulled up to the curbstone.
You, Pop Saunders? That's me. Who are you? Sergeant Wood, of Scotland Yard. This is Inspector Bowers. Yes? Have I done something?
No, but you may have seen something that'll help us.
Yes, sir.
Were you here at this time yesterday?
Yes, sir. I'm always here. This time of day.
Well, did you notice anyone with a white scarf go into the building? Running, perhaps?
Oh, those 2. Yes, sir, I did. Funny thing, they seemed in such a hurry. One of them had a raincoat. They came out later. No scarves and no raincoat.
Now the search is on for a raincoat. Scarves or handkerchiefs can go into pockets, not raincoats. The Brook Building swarms with police. Every nook and cranny is inspected. In the cellar, in a dark corner.
This must be it, Inspector. Every other raincoat in the building's accounted for. Not a mark on it. Nothing.
Yeah, try ripping the lining, Sergeant.
Nothing, sir.
except the manufacturer's stock tag under the armpit.
Not much, but a little at any rate.
Check the manufacturer. From there to the jobber who bought the lot on which that coat was packed. From the jobber to the retailer.
It's times like this I thank heaven for rationing. At least they have to keep a record of the clothing coupons and the names of everyone who buys anything.
A thin, tenuous trail and a mountain of sales slips to go through. But nothing strikes a chord of memory. And then, the sergeant thinks of something.
Inspector, when they make out these records, don't they write the last names first?
Yeah, you're right. They do. Oh, well, back over it again. Here, how about this, Sergeant? Mac Stanley. The other way, Stanley Mac. Remember that name, Sergeant?
Stanley Mac. Not a usual name. Yes, sir, I do. Didn't he testify at a trial about 2 years ago?
He did. The trial of Jack Georgeston. He was sent away for armed robbery. First offense. Light sentence. Pal Georgeston ought to be out by now. All right, let's get his dossier over here, Sergeant, and then invite him in for a talk. It may be interesting, if nothing else.
Well, today, that center fire bullet can be seen in the Black Museum. It was a long chance. One man buys a raincoat. This man happens to be a witness at another man's trial. The defendant is sent to prison for armed robbery under circumstances similar to the case under investigation. The inspector in charge sends for the convicted man's dossier and finds.
Well, so Jack Georgeston was released from prison 6 days before the Queensbury killing. Now, well, let's have the young man into the yard, shall we, Sergeant? You'll be able to find him easily enough, I think. If not, we can suspect flight because of guilt, can't we? Send a pick-up order out for him.
Jack Georgeston was found. Found quite easily in London.
Look, you haven't that thing on me, Inspector, and you know it.
Maybe, maybe not. Sergeant, show Mr. Georgeston the garment.
Here it is, Georgeston. Do you recognize it?
There's a million raincoats like that.
Yeah, but not bought by Stanley Mac.
That coat.
You know it?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have nothing against the rain last week when I got out. So Stan gave me the coat.
Oh, where did you lose it?
I didn't lose it. I never lost nothing. Except a little time recently.
Yeah, we know about that.
I figured you did.
Keep a civil tongue in your head, Georgeston, understand?
Okay. Okay, I said.
Well, now, since you didn't lose this raincoat, how is it that we found it?
I loaned it to a fella. How should I know what he did with it?
Oh, who had it?
I don't remember.
Now, you receive a raincoat as a gift against the rain. Within a matter of days, you loan it to someone, but you don't remember to whom.
That's right. I don't remember.
You try him, Sergeant.
Yes, sir. Speak up, man. Who had that coat?
I don't remember.
Well, maybe I can refresh your memory. The coat's hooked up with a murder. Now, who had it?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
That was the refrain. I don't remember. How could they make him remember? Finally, they let him go. There was nothing to hold him on. But Inspector Bowers said,
I want a tail on him, Sergeant. 24 hours a day. We'll pick up his friends one by one and see where he leads us.
One of those friends was a boy named Rodney Hamilton.
Let me alone. I never did nothing.
How old are you, Hamilton?
17, and you got no right.
Well, we happen to know that you've been away to a reform school, Hamilton. You were caught snatching ladies' purses 2 years ago.
So what? I did me time.
You don't keep very good company, son. Georgeston has been out of prison about a week.
Well, we like each other. I'll pick my own friends.
Where were you day before yesterday, about 2:30 in the afternoon?
Home. In bed.
Sleeping late, huh?
I was sick. Had a fever.
We can check that, you know.
Go ahead, check it. I was at home in bed. All afternoon, all morning, and all night. I was sick.
Yes, we know. You said that before. Now, look here.
Well, it didn't do any good. The boy was obviously afraid, but whether of the police or of the men he knew, it was impossible to tell. Still, the patience of Scotland Yard was rewarded once again. A report came in from detectives assigned to follow both Georgeston and Hamilton, that they'd been present at a party in a bar given by a third young man named Matty Canvas.
Dossier on canvas, Inspector.
Ah, thank you. So, nice lad. Stole a car when he was 11. Convicted, assault with intent to rob. Convicted, jewel robbery. convicted, armed robbery and assault. Nice little trio, our three friends, aren't they, Sergeant?
Not exactly. Do you want canvas brought in, sir?
Yes, do that. Oh, and, Sergeant, bring the other two along, but keep them separated. Don't let any one of them know that we have the other two.
Nothing highly dramatic, merely routine, Scotland Yard routine, recognizable as standard practice by any policeman in any large city. Bring him in for questioning. But it always helps to have a few facts on which to base the questions. With this in mind, and knowing their underworld, Inspector Bowers and Sergeant Wood repaired to that certain bar where Matty Canvas held parties for his friends.
Nothing much here.
Well, there may be. Keep your ears open. Another pint of ale, please.
Very right, you are, sir.
Oh, now, Larry, let me wait on the gentleman.
Sit yourself, Miguel. Sit yourself.
Oh, well, down the hatch.
Right.
Patience. Frequent the bar. Wait. Keep your ears open. Don't talk. Just wait.
Say, Larry, you hear they picked up Matty?
Yeah, and the other two.
Rod, too? That kid?
Well, I, for one, ain't sorry. Gives that place a bad name having kids around with guns in their pockets.
Not bright.
Canvas ain't bright, that's for sure. It's just he'll get bunked out of 5,000 quid's worth of stuff. Gets mad and works the kid like that there, Rod.
Oh, well, so it goes, I will say.
Another couple of pints, please, miss.
Oh, yeah, sure. There you are.
Do you know a lad named Canvas?
Me? I don't know nobody.
How about a kid named Hamilton?
You think I'll keep track of everybody comes in here?
Yeah, that would be difficult. I thought I heard you mention Mr. Canvas by name. So did my friend here.
Then you thought wrong.
We don't encourage conversation with the elder.
No, I don't suppose you do. Care to have a drink on us?
I'm not certain that I drinks with cops, mister.
More routine ahead. More routine for the inspector and the sergeant after they left the bar. They checked descriptions of the men seen at hold-ups and robberies prior by some months to the tragedy in Queensbury Street. In one case, a description tallied with Matty Canvas. Mr. Canvas was invited out of his cell and into the inspector's office.
All right, Canvas. You've been identified on the Davis job. You'll do a good long stretch for that. You may as well tell us what you know about the Queensbury shooting.
I don't know nothing.
Turn King's evidence, Canvas, and you'll get off easily. Otherwise, it's a hanging matter.
You can't pin that one on me. I was miles away. I can prove it.
Well, suppose I told you the kid's been talking his head off.
Rod? Talk? Not in your life. He's too scared somebody will cut his liver out.
Oh, all right, Canvas, if that's the way you want it. Take him back, Sergeant. We'll give him plenty of time to think.
No luck with Georgetown either. But the kid. There was a chance he'd break. Just a chance. The inspector took it.
Look, boy, your pals are saying that you held a gun that killed the fellow in the Queensbury hold-up.
I never had a gun.
Maybe they're framing you, lad. After all, you're pretty young, 17. You won't hang. They will. So naturally, they say it was you.
I didn't. I never touched the gun.
Canvas says you did, that you had the 32 all the time.
I never did. They can't say it. They can't.
But they do. Both of them told me. Looks to us like they got together to put the job on you.
Well, why shouldn't they? They might have to die.
There were only two guns. They had them. You've got to believe that. You've got to.
We don't have to believe anything except evidence.
If you had the guns, if I told you where they were, I said it. I didn't mean to talk. I did.
Keep talking, lad. It's the only way to save your neck.
My neck?
If you held that gun and pulled that trigger...
All right, we threw the guns away, both of them. The 45 Matty had and the 32 Jack had. We threw them in the river from the quay at the Lancashire Wharf. If you can find them, you'll see. Maybe there'll be fingerprints. You've got to find them guns. You've got to...
ballistic report, Inspector. The 45 fired the bullet we found in the woodwork. The 32 killed the man in the street. And it's funny, half the cartridges in the 32 were rimfire. The other half was centerfire. Those didn't go off. If they had, chances are there'd have been a lot more murder.
And today, if you're interested, you can find that centerfire bullet in a place of honor in the Black Museum.
Orson Welles will be back with you in just a moment.
It's an accepted fact in police work that 80% of the occupants of our prison either were talked there or talked themselves there. In this case, it was patient police routine plus the talking of young Rod Hamilton, which put Rod behind bars for the rest of his life and brought Georgetown and Canvas to the 13 steps and the rope one morning at 8 o'clock. There's a postscript to this story. The use of a gun by an English criminal is rare. Nor in England do the police go armed in their normal course of duty. The Hamilton case was one of the more obvious symptoms of a post-war disease of violence. The death of Georgetown and Canvas was not without its effect on this disease. For days, weeks, and even months after their execution, pistols, guns, knives, many of them perhaps innocent wartime souvenirs, others of more dubious origin, were found by the police on rubbish heaps, disused gardens, on the mudbanks of the River Thames. The criminal world of London had come to terms with their traditional enemies at Scotland Yard. And perhaps, after all, the innocent man had not died in vain. The bullet that killed him, the centerfire bullet, remains in its customary place in the Black Museum. And now, until we meet next time in the same place, I tell you another story about the Black Museum. I remain, as always, obediently yours.
The Mutual Broadcasting System presents The Mysterious Traveler. Written, produced, and directed by Robert A. Arthur and David Cogan. And starring tonight two of radio's foremost actors, Leon Janney and Ralph Bell, in The Man Who Tried to Save Lincoln.
This is The Mysterious Traveler, inviting you to join me on another journey into the realm of the strange and the terrifying. I hope you will enjoy the trip, that it will thrill you a little and chill you a little. So settle back, get a good grip on your nerves, and be comfortable, if you can, as we hear the strange story that I call The Man Who Tried to Save Lincoln. February 12th, of course, is Abraham Lincoln's birthday. And next April 14th is the anniversary of his death at the hands of an assassin. Many people have wondered what would have happened if Lincoln had not died that night. My story tonight concerns two such people, and it begins in a small laboratory in a college in Pennsylvania. A heavy-set, middle-aged man is tinkering with a maze of electronic apparatus.
1914? 1913, 1912, 1911, 1910, 1910. The gauge stops there. There's no penetration. The accumulated tension is too great to overcome unless I use more power. And if I do... just as I expected, the field coil blew out. 39 years penetration, and there I stick. Maybe if I get a more powerful tube, Hello, Professor Hodges speaking.
Professor Hodges? This is Miss Erskine.
Mrs. Erskine?
Oh, Professor Hodges, you've forgotten.
I have? Forgotten what, Mrs. Erskine?
My tea, Professor. Oh, it was very naughty of you, but I know how absent-minded professors are, so I'll forgive you if you'll come right over.
Oh, yes, your tea. The truth is, Mrs. Erskine,
Now, I'm not going to let you say no. The dean is here, and some very attractive young women, and someone you surely want to meet.
I do?
Oh, yes, Tom Morrison. You know, he just wrote that wonderful book, If Lincoln Had Lived. You must meet him.
Oh, yes. Is he any relation to former Professor Henry Morrison?
His son. Now, you will come, won't you, right away?
All right, Mrs. Erskine. Maybe I need some social life to take the cobwebs out of my brain.
Oh, Professor Hodges, I'm so glad you could come, even if I did have to remind you. And I want you to meet Tom Morrison. This is Professor Hodges.
How do you do, sir? Glad to meet you, Mr. Morrison.
Mr. Morrison has just been telling me about his book, If Lincoln Had Lived. It is fascinating. It is simply fascinating. It is... Oh, but there's Lucy Johnson, and I must see her. Please, you two, just excuse me, because... Oh, Lucy! Lucy, dear, I want to speak to you, dear. Now, just wait.
Mrs. Erskine was telling me you're a physicist, Professor Hodges. Electronics.
Yes, that's my line. I've heard of your book, Mr. Morrison, If Lincoln Had Lived. Tell me, what would have happened?
Well, as I was just telling Mrs. Erskine, I think tremendous things would have happened.
Such as?
I think Abraham Lincoln would have managed things so wisely that at the end of the war between the states, the whole nation would have recovered in 10 years.
Oh, yes? Go on.
There would have been no bitterness. And as a united nation, we'd have forged ahead much more quickly to take our place as a world leader.
Yes, I can see how that would be.
Why, we'd have been so strong in 1914 that we'd have prevented World War I by our very threat to intervene.
Then there wouldn't have been any World War.
Well, certainly the chances against it would have been much greater.
Mr. Morrison, Tom, I am glad I came here today. I think you're the man I need.
Need? In what way?
I'm in the middle of a tremendous experiment. I need a man with imagination. That's you. I need a man I can trust. You again.
Professor, what is this experiment?
Tom, I'll answer one question with another. How would you like to step back through the pages of history to that fatal night of April 13th, 1865, and save Abraham Lincoln's life? These are the instruments I've been working with, Tom. They don't look like much, I guess, but they work. Up to a point, that is.
So that's what a time machine looks like. I always wondered, and now I know.
Time machine? Tom, you've been reading H.G. Wells. You and just about everybody else, I suppose, think of a time machine as an invention which could carry people back and forth through time like an automobile carries them along a road. Right?
Well, pretty much, I guess.
In that sense, a time machine is impossible, believe me. But in another sense, everyone travels about in time constantly.
How do you mean?
Tom, what happened on your 7th birthday?
My 7th birthday? I had a big party. Yeah, I got a pony for a present. Rode that pony all over the lawn.
You see, Tom? Just now you traveled backwards 25 years in time, mentally.
Well, say, I did, didn't I? I think I see what you're getting at. You can travel through time mentally, if not physically.
That's it. And this machine here is just a refinement on that principle. If I used you as a subject, Tom, and focused it at some special date in history when I knew people were present at this spot...
Yes?
The electronic circuits would take your own brain waves, your memory pattern, your personality, if you want to call it that, amplify it millions of times. and push it back into the past, into the mind of some person at that particular spot at that particular time.
You mean that my brain pattern would be impressed upon the brain of some man living in the past?
Roughly speaking, yes. You'd be able to think with his mind, see with his eyes, hear with his ears, and move about in his body.
I see.
There are difficulties. For instance, suppose your mind finds itself inside the brain of a very strong-willed individual.
Yes?
You will probably be helpless, unable to influence his actions in any way. You see, you will be dominated.
I see.
On the other hand, an easygoing or weak-willed person would be subject to your will.
Then you couldn't always be sure of just what would happen when you made an excursion back into the past.
Unfortunately, no. But that can't be helped. There are other difficulties. Right now, my main tube isn't big enough. I can't achieve penetration further back than 1910.
40 years.
I have a bigger tube coming that should extend the range at least to 100 years. But while we wait for it, suppose we do a little experimenting.
What kind of experimenting, Professor?
Tom, tomorrow, how would you like to go on a little jaunt back to the year 1912? Comfortable, Tom?
Feel fine, Professor.
I've purposely arranged this chair so that you can see out the window. You see the public library across the street?
Yes. It was erected in 1912, wasn't it?
The very year you're going to visit. Did you know your mother was one of the first librarians there?
Yes. It's family history that she met Father when he went in to get a book. He was so bowled over, he forgot the book.
He also forgot to sign the library card in the back of it. I have the very book right here. The Life of Lincoln.
The same book. It looks as if it hadn't been read in 40 years.
It hasn't. Here's the card. Here's the line where your father should have signed his name. Perfectly blank.
Dad certainly must have been smitten.
That's just the point. Tom, I know it's possible to send your brain pattern back in time, but is it possible for you to change anything that happened then?
To change anything? I hadn't thought of that. If the past has happened, it's fixed, isn't it? It can't be changed.
I think it can. That's what we're going to test. Tom, I'm going to send you back to that day your father met your mother. I'm going to force your mental pattern into your father's mind.
Good Lord.
Yes. You'll see with his eyes, think with his mind, move with his body. And Tom, you are going to sign this library card.
Sign the card?
Right. You're going back to noon, July 10th, 1912. According to the timestamp on this card, the book was delivered at that exact moment.
I see. And I'm to sign the library card that never was signed. I'm to alter the past.
If you can. Maybe you won't be able to. But try, Tom. Try. Concentrate every power of your mind on it.
I will. But you have the book and the card here. They're not in the library.
Ah, they are. Back in 1912.
Oh, of course. I was forgetting.
Ready?
Yes.
Sit back. Relax. I'll attach the headpiece. There. Now concentrate your mind on the thought, noon, July 10th, 1912. Repeat it over and over mentally.
I understand.
It'll take a few seconds. You may experience a period of dizziness. Be prepared for anything.
Noon, July 10th, 1912. Noon, July 10th, 1912. Noon, July 10th, 1912. Noon, July 10th, 1912.
Mr. Morrison, what is it? Are you ill?
I felt dizzy for a moment. Well, where am I?
Well, this is the public library, and I have the book you called for, The Life of Lincoln. Why are you staring at me so oddly, Mr. Morrison?
You? I I've never seen you before, have I?
Why, no. I'm Miss Andrews, the assistant librarian. I just started work here today.
Miss Andrews. Is this July 10th, 1912?
Well, yes, of course.
Oh, what time is it?
Well, the clock is just striking noon.
Oh, yes, of course. Why did I ask that? I know perfectly well it is. It's as if there were a voice in my mind. It's odd.
Are you sure that you feel all right, Mr. Morrison?
Of course I do. Just a little giddy. That's the effect of love at first sight.
Mr. Morrison.
Oh, I mean it, Miss Andrews. Will you have lunch with me? Now, right away, so we can talk.
Why, of course I will.
Will. Thank you, Miss Andrews. Get your hat. It is lunchtime, isn't it?
Why, yes, I believe it is, Mr. Morrison.
Yes.
But the book, don't you want me to sign it out for you?
Oh, bother the book. Lincoln can wait. But there's something.
Yes?
I'm trying to remember something. The card. Yes, I have to sign the card.
Well, not if you don't wish the book.
Yes, but I do. Something tells me I must. I don't know why. Give me the card, please.
Yes, of course.
And a pen.
Here you are.
Now, I'm feeling busy again. My name. Tom. No, not Tom. Henry. What's wrong with me? Henry Morrison. There. Now
Mr. Morrison. Mr. Morrison, can I get you a glass of water?
Tom, here. Drink this.
Thanks, Professor. Oh, it's better. I am over my dizziness.
What happened? Tell me.
Well, there was an instant of dizziness. Then I opened my eyes, and Professor, I was standing in the public library talking to a young woman. The woman who was later to become my own mother.
Go on, Tom.
Yes, it was noon, July 10th, 1912. And I seemed to be inside the mind of someone else. Someone who went on talking and acting as if I didn't exist.
Of course. Your mental pattern was being superimposed on his mind. Your father-to-be.
Yes, I tried to make him realize I was there. I exerted all my willpower. Then I think he signed the library card. I'm not sure. Everything got far away and dark then, and I was sitting here with you back in 1950.
We'll know in a moment if he did sign the card. If you did change the past, Tom. I'll open the book. If the card was signed, the signature will be there now. It'll have to be there. Look.
It's signed. Henry Morrison. My father's signature.
And look. He started to sign it Tom, and then he crossed out the Tom and wrote in Henry. That proves your personality was dominant for a moment. We can do it, Tom. We can reach back into the past and save the life of Abraham Lincoln.
And change the whole course of world history since 1865.
As soon as the bigger tube gets here, we'll try further tests, send you back further. Tom, how would you like to be present to hear Lincoln deliver the Gettysburg Address?
Hey, you, take care. Step on my foot, huh?
Oh, sorry. I felt dizzy. Well, where am I?
Where are you?
Yeah.
You crazy? It's Gettysburg, of course. You ought to know you lived here all your life, Jesse Evans. Quiet, the president's going to speak.
The president?
President Lincoln, of course. Shh.
407 years ago, our forefathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot
Professor, I saw him. I saw Lincoln, and I heard him deliver the Gettysburg Address.
And we've done it. We've achieved the penetration into the time we need. And we've proved you can stay there at least half an hour.
It was terrific. There was a farmer named Jesse Evans, a simple fellow. I was able to control his actions without difficulty. And for 30 minutes, I saw Lincoln. Listen to him. Now I know I'm right. If Lincoln had lived, we'd all have a better world today.
Tom, we'll leave for Washington tomorrow. We'll set up our instruments and equipment in the Ford Theater itself, where John Wilkes Booth shot Abraham Lincoln at about 10:15 on the night of April 13th, 1865. And you will return to that fateful night and prevent the shot from being fired. Well, everything seems to be working. I was afraid the trip by truck might have jarred the main tube.
How still it is here. How hushed. Listen to the silence, Professor. It's as if not a single sound had been uttered here since the night Lincoln was shot.
Well, Tom, considering this place is a museum now, and maybe 1 million people have visited it...
Still, the atmosphere of silence is here. Think of it, sir. Through that doorway, Abraham Lincoln walked. Across those boards. Up those stairs. Walked unknowing to his death. While John Wilkes Booth lurked outside, a loaded pistol in his pocket.
I know what you mean, Tom. Now let's plot our strategy. We have the place to ourselves until tomorrow morning. Let's try to imagine this theater as it was, April 13th, 1865. Let's figure out just where everyone was, so far as we know. You tell me, Tom. You're the expert in this field.
All right, Professor. Now, over there is the box office. There, the entrance. This was the auditorium. And there, of course, was the stage. Up there was the private box in which Lincoln and his party sat.
I wish we could get the gadgets up there, but we can't. Have to work from down here.
At about 9 o'clock in the evening, the President and Mrs. Lincoln entered with 2 guests. The play had already started. A ticket taker named Buckingham took their tickets, and an usher led them to their box.
I see. Go on, Tom.
At about 10 minutes past 10, John Wilkes Booth sauntered in. He spoke to Buckingham, the ticket taker. Then he went on upstairs toward Lincoln's box. In his pocket, he carried a brass derringer loaded with 1 shot.
And he struck almost immediately.
Yes, sir. The President had an armed guard, John F. Parker. But Parker was criminally negligent. He left his post to watch the play. Left Lincoln unguarded. Booth slipped into the President's box, fired 1 shot into Lincoln's head, leaped to the stage, and made his getaway.
Now, Tom.
Yes, sir.
Our experiments have proved definitely that your ability to alter the past depends on the type of mind into which the electronic pressure forces your own mental pattern.
That's right. If I should hit a strong-willed man, I might not be able to control him at all. A neutral or weak-willed type I can control and force to act.
And you must act. Booth must be killed. You understand that?
Of course. If I just stopped him, he might strike again later.
Another danger is that we might send your mental pattern into the mind of someone who did not know Booth and would be unable to stop him in time.
What do you suggest, sir?
We have two possibilities. First, the guard Parker. He was weak-willed, and he was armed.
He seems the most logical choice.
Unfortunately, we don't know just where he was for part of the evening. He left his post, and wandered around. And the pattern of pressure must be very carefully aimed.
Of course. If we missed him...
No telling what would happen. My choice is Buckingham, the ticket-taker.
Buckingham, eh?
A ticket-taker is not ordinarily a man of, shall we say, great mental achievements. You will probably be able to control him, and remember, he knew Booth, and in fact spoke to him.
That's true. Also, we know almost exactly where he stood the whole evening.
There by the entrance. All right, Tom. We will plan on sending you back to April 13th, 1865, into the mind of Mr. Buckingham. Now, let's start getting ready.
Steady, man, steady. You almost fell then. What's the matter, fella? You drinking again?
Am I?
Why, this is Ford's Theater, of course. What's wrong with you?
Oh, I'm all right. Thanks. Just busy for a minute. So I'm there. On the scene. Ford's Theater. The night of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
Hey, what's that? What about Lincoln? He's here tonight, you know.
Yes, I know. The lobby. Ford's Theater. April 13th, 1865. We've done it. And I can't fail. I can't.
Quiet. The play's going on, you know. You mustn't disturb the president.
No. The president. Yes. The president. He mustn't be disturbed. Oh, no, I'll see he's not disturbed.
You're acting awful strange. You're talking odd.
Well, who am I? Tell me, who am I? Is my name Buckingham?
Buckingham? That's a good one. Tell him, Harry, is his name Buckingham?
It can't be. You're Buckingham.
You? You're Buckingham?
That's right, fella. Say, how much did you have to drink tonight?
Nothing. We missed. Somehow. We missed. But it won't make any difference. It won't. I'll find him.
Look, why don't you go in, find an empty seat, and sit down till you're all right?
No. I can't sit down. Got to find someone. Who? Lincoln. Yes, President Lincoln. And John Wilkes Booth. Got to find them. Save. Kill.
Harry, help me to hold him up. He's staggering.
Busy. Got to concentrate on Lincoln. On Booth. Concentrate.
There's no liquor on his breath. He's ill. Better get him outside.
No, I'm all right. It's 10 after 10. I have something important to tend to. Life and death. Have you seen Booth? John Wilkes Booth, the actor.
Have I seen Booth?
Yes. Excuse me, Buckingham. I've got to go on in. I have a very important engagement to keep. Yes. Very important. A matter of life and death.
Well, if you're sure you feel all right, go right ahead.
Thank you. Good night, gentlemen.
Well, that was a funny performance.
If I hadn't smelled his breath, I'd have sworn he was drunk.
He's a funny one. Never know what he's up to. That talk just now about having an important engagement. Just bluff, you may be bound.
Do you suppose he's in his right mind, though? Asking us if we'd seen John Wilkes Booth, the actor, when he's John Wilkes Booth.
This is the mysterious traveler again. Did Tom and Professor Hodges succeed? No, you have only to open your history books and know they didn't. The past can't be changed, only the future. And it can be changed for good or evil, now, today, by you, and you. By all of us, each working in his own way. What future are you working for? While you think about it, I'll tell you about next week's story, The Big Hand. It's about two criminals who risk their lives in a desperate gamble for $1 million with death as their ever... Oh, you have to get off here. I'm sorry. But I'm sure we'll meet again. I take this same train every week at the same time.
You have just heard The Mysterious Traveler with the title role played by Maurice Tarplin. In the cast were Leon Janney, Ralph Bell, Miss Leslie Woods, and Raymond Edward Johnson. Original music composed and played by Al Finelli. This is Bob Emmerich speaking. This is the world's largest network, the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Sunrise and sunset, promise and fulfillment, birth and death. The whole drama of life is written in the sands of time.
We present a new series of radio programs, The Clock.
Have you ever wished you could live your life all over again? Perhaps you have. 70 is our allotted time, and yet it might be nice to repeat the process and see how many past mistakes we could avoid on our second tour around the clock. For none of us are perfect. Well, almost none. I have in mind one gentleman who thought he was, at any rate. His name was Alexander Doby. No one ever said no to Mr. Doby. He was much too rich. No one ever crossed him. No one ever matched his will until a late afternoon in January at the age of 52, when our friend Alexander Doby... But I'm getting ahead of my story. Let me give it to you in more detail.
Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Doby.
Good afternoon.
I don't remember your making an appointment.
I never make appointments, Dr. Renner, particularly with dentists.
Oh.
I arrive when I arrive and I leave when I leave. I don't have time to keep appointments.
What seems to be the trouble?
What do you think would be the trouble when I visit a dentist? I have a toothache. If my regular dentist hadn't taken a winter vacation, I wouldn't be here now. Dr. Simpson, of course, you've heard of him, best man in town, charges $30 a filling.
I only charge $5.
Then you can't be very good. However, I have a double purpose in coming here, as you undoubtedly know.
I think I can guess. You open wide, please.
The big one on the upper left next to the... Oh,
I'm sorry.
What are you trying to do? Torture me?
Well, you've got quite a cavity there.
You needn't tell me it's my tooth, isn't it? Will you, have to drill?
Well, naturally.
Will it hurt?
Probably.
Well, I don't want it to hurt, blast it. I haven't got time to be in pain.
Would you like some gas?
Gas?
Well, you won't feel a thing if I give you gas.
I hope not. Lena, how long have you known my daughter?
Oh, it's been almost a year, Mr. Doby.
That's almost a year too long, young man. Just what are your intentions?
Hasn't Arlene told you?
She doesn't have to tell me. I know what's going on.
Well, Mr. Dobie, as long as you bring the matter up...
Well?
Well, I want to marry Arlene.
You want to what?
Well, I had every intention of coming to see you very soon.
What is your income, Renner?
$5,000 a year.
That's gross, isn't it?
Yes.
And after your overhead is cleared, your office, instruments, and so on, what's left?
Well, about $3,000, I guess.
$3,000 a year. $60 a week, and you want to marry my daughter.
Well, Mr. Dobie,
Oh, I know what you're after, my enterprising young fellow. Don't think you're getting ahead of me.
I'm not quite sure I know what you mean, Mr. Dobie.
Heiresses aren't easy to come by, are they? Particularly for inconsequential pipsqueaks like you.
Mr. Dobie, you're going a little too far. Please, let's not quarrel. You're Arlene's father, and I...
You can bet your last bicuspid I'm her father. But I'm never going to be your father-in-law. Now, do you hear that? From now on, your little romance is finished. I don't want you to see my daughter again. Is that clear?
Very.
I can make a lot of trouble for you, Renner, so keep it in mind.
I will, Mr. Dobie.
Well, now get on with that, too. And if I so much as feel one twinge of pain, I'll bite a hole in your hand. What's that?
I'm ready to give you the gas now.
Well, don't stand there like an idiot. Give it to me.
Well, we'll just put this mask over your face. Now, breathe naturally.
Well, how else do you think I can breathe?
This will only take a minute.
Be careful with that fool thing now. Don't give me too much.
I know my business, Mr. Dobie. I'm going to give you just enough.
Is this stuff dangerous?
It could be, if it's not handled properly. So, you're coming between Arlene and me.
You bet your boots I am. And I'll ruin you, Renner, if you so much as... Say, wait a minute. I feel peculiar.
Breathe deeply, Mr. Dobie.
Get this thing off me. I don't want any gas.
Just a few seconds more.
Oh, no, I don't want any more. You're trying to kill me. Take that mask away. Take it away, you hear? You're killing me. You're killing me.
Say something, Mr. Dobie.
What place are you?
My name is Ipswich.
That's not a name, that's a railroad station. Where am I?
In a room.
Oh, I know I'm in a room. That dentist, Renner. Now I remember. He tried to kill me.
Did he?
Gave me gas. Get hold of the police. I'm having that man jailed immediately.
Now, let me see. I believe I have a list of your vital statistics here.
Did you hear what I said about the police?
I suggest you relax, Mr. Dobie. It'll make it so much easier for both of us.
See, where am I? In a lunatic asylum? What am I doing in a bare room? How did I get here? Oh, my tooth doesn't hurt.
Alexander Dobie, aged 52. Widower, one child, place of birth, Rochester, New York. Member of the Stock Exchange, president of the Universal Copper Company, Incorporated.
How do you know so much about me?
It's my business to know everything about everyone, Mr. Dobie.
Listen, you crackpot. I just told you a man tried to murder me. Now, are you going to call the police or must I?
There are no police, Mr. Dobie.
What?
And I know all about Dr. Renner and you. Too much guess. It's happened before, still it's more pleasant than falling out of a window, isn't it? You must admit you left the world with ease and comfort.
Left the world? You talk as if I'm dead.
But you are, Mr. Dobie. You are dead.
I just can't believe it. It isn't possible.
It's happened before, Mr. Dobie. You're not the first man to arrive at the middle level. There have been several billion before you.
Middle level? What middle level? Why haven't I been taken to the upper level?
Well, first there are references to be checked, Mr. Dobie. Of course, references aren't so important on the lower level. So you needn't worry. We'll see you getting somewhere.
I've got hundreds of references, Ipswich.
Really? Odd they're not listed here.
Well, apparently you don't know who I am.
Oh, yes, you're Alexander Dobie, age 52.
I also happen to be Alexander Dobie, the richest man in the East. I'm on the board of directors in 3 banks. I'm a member of 5 of the most exclusive clubs in America. And it would take you a week to walk across my real estate if it was laid end to end.
I still don't see any references on my list.
Then your list is a forgery, Ipswich. Ask any businessman in New York who I am. He'll tell you without blinking an eyelash.
I'm afraid you misunderstand me, Mr. Dobie. I'm talking about personal references now.
Personal references?
Yes, in order to reach the upper level, someone must vouch for you. A friend or a member of your family. Just one kind word in your favor is all that's needed, Mr. Dobie.
Oh, now, look here, Ipswich. Let's not be silly about this. I'm not in the habit of asking people to vouch for me. Here.
What's that?
Money, you fool. $100 bill. Now take it and let's get started.
Dear, they're getting awfully careless at the main gate. You're the 3rd person who's come through here in the past 80 years with money.
What do you mean?
Money isn't needed in this area, so to speak.
Money's needed everywhere. Makes the world go round.
But you happen to be out of this world, Mr. Dobie. Now, about that reference.
Oh, are we going into that again?
I'm afraid it's necessary.
All right, if you insist. I can give you a reference.
Fine.
How do we get back?
Just tell me where you want to go, Mr. Dobie. Who'll give you this reference?
My banker, of course. Who else?
Very well, sir. We'll see your banker. This is where you bank your money, I believe.
And there's John Harvey, the president. John?
He can't hear you, Mr. Dobie.
He can't?
He can't see you either.
Well, that's a ridiculous position to be in.
But we can hear and see him. Let's go over to his desk.
Mr. Harvey.
What is it, Lewis?
Here's that statement Mr. Dobie's executor asked for.
Oh, yes, his assets.
Wait till you hear this list, Fitch.
Yes, I imagine it's very impressive.
He certainly was rich, wasn't he?
Extremely.
He had $11 million in cash in this bank alone.
To say nothing of his mortgages and real estate.
Yes, it's quite a fortune. Alexander Dobie was even richer than I imagined.
There you are, Ipswich. How's that for a reference?
It's still not personal.
Hard to please, aren't you?
Mr. Harvey, how long do you think it took him to amass a fortune like that?
It wasn't done overnight.
I'll say it wasn't.
He must have worked hard for it.
There's your reference, Ipswich.
Hard? Oh, don't be silly, Lewis. He just cheated a little better than the next chap, that's all. In order to build this fortune, he probably ruined half a dozen men. I know what Dobie's kind was like. Last of the robber barons.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Doesn't he?
I hate to say this about a man who's gone, Lewis, but Alex Dobie's death was no loss to the world. I doubt if anyone will miss him. There are many people who've already forgotten he ever existed.
Shall I send this report to his attorneys, Mr. Harvey?
Yes, get it over with. I'm going out for lunch and a round of golf.
Well, Mr. Dobie?
That's a fine way for a man to treat a client. That's all I have to say. He'll never get another nickel of my business.
I'm sure he won't.
Anyway, he was always jealous of me. And he was never a very good friend.
Then suppose we visit a good friend, Mr. Dobie.
Yes. Well, all right.
Who shall we see?
Oh, anyone at all. It doesn't matter. I've got lots of friends. Good friends, too.
I'm glad to hear that.
Oh, let's see now, good friend. This will be time. Ipswich. I'll think of one. Ipswich.
Yes, Mr. Dobie?
Not that I expect to disappoint you, and just for the sake of argument, out of sheer curiosity, what would happen if I didn't produce a reference?
I wouldn't talk about that now, Mr. Dobie.
I demand to know.
It isn't a pleasant subject.
What are you getting at?
Mr. Dobie, we haven't too much time, so let's get on with it. Have you or have you not a personal reference to offer?
I certainly have. I hope.
On this earth, time is measured in seconds, minutes, and hours. In Mr. Dobie's new world, time is calculated in eternities. Days, months, and years are unimportant. There is only now and later. And in Mr. Dobie's case, it was later than he thought.
Hey, isn't that my country club with Twitch?
You said you wanted to hear from Charlie Parker, I believe. Well, we'll find him on the golf course.
Good old Charlie. He spent 10 years trying to beat me at golf, but he could never touch my game.
Were you that good?
Good. I was number 2 man at the club. Oh, there's Charlie now, walking towards the first tee.
Let's join him.
Hey, wait a minute. He's playing a twosome with John Harvey. Now, listen, we just saw Harvey, and what he says doesn't count.
I'm only interested in what Mr. Parker has to say.
Hello there, Charlie.
Oh, afternoon, John. You're late.
Sorry, I was going over Alec Dorby's account.
Oh, yeah, Alex died the other day, I hear.
He was a very good personal friend of yours, wasn't he?
Oh, I knew him quite well.
Go on, Charlie. Tell him how we got along. Tell him what a wonderful chap I was.
He used to play quite a bit of golf with Alex.
Oh, was he good?
Number 2 man at the club.
What did I tell you, Ipswich?
Should have been number 1 man, the way he kept his score.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if he took 10 strokes, he'd put down 5. Yeah, he was just about the biggest golf liar I ever met.
Now, look here, you old windbag.
I told you they can't hear you, Mr. Davis.
So he cheated in golf as well as in everything else, eh?
Yeah, not only that, but he did it for money.
Oh, money?
I can forgive a man who forgets a stroke or 2 on his scorecard. Oh. After all, we're only human. It's nice to feel kid yourself that you're an athlete at the age of 50 or so.
Oh, I know what you mean, Charlie.
But Dobie always insisted on playing for money. $5 a hole, and he always made sure to win every hole in the bargain.
With his pencil, eh?
It was really disgusting, Harvey. He was richer than any man I'd ever known. Yet he'd cheat for a $5 bill. Can you imagine that?
Oh, I guess not. But as I understood it, Parky, you were his closest friend. You don't seem to be very unhappy about his passing.
His closest friend? Yeah, I was his closest friend. I knew what was good for me. He held 51% of the stock in my company. He could have ruined me at the drop of a hat. That's why I made sure to be his closest friend.
Oh, I see.
Personally. You know what I'm going to do? You know how I'm going to mourn his death?
No.
By getting tight in the clubhouse after this round of golf. And it's going to be more of a celebration than anything else. Come on, let's go.
Well, that's that.
I would never have believed it, Charlie. Never.
Did you cheat at golf, Mr. Dobie?
Cheat?
As Parker claimed.
Well, I admit taking a stroke or 2 off my card here and there, but what difference did it make? It was all in fun.
Fun at $5 a hole.
Now, listen to me, Ipswich.
Mr. Dobie, I'm afraid I'll have to inform the secretary.
What?
You don't seem to be able to provide a reference.
Now, look, Ipswich, you got to give me a break.
A break?
I'm due for the upper level, and you know it. And by George, you're going to take me there.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dobie.
Now, wait a minute, Ipswich. I'm a rich man, a very rich man. All that talk about not using money was just plain silly. You know it was. Oh, I admit I underestimated you by offering you $100, but I'll raise that offer.
Will you?
To $1 million. Well, how's that, eh? $1 million in cash. And you don't have to report it to the government if you don't want to. I'll keep quiet myself to save the tax. See what I mean?
Only a reference and a good one will do the trick, Mr. Dobie.
I won't go any higher, Ipswich. Either you take $2 million or the deal's off.
Fine. The deal is off.
Wait. Don't leave me, Ipswich. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe you're the one man who doesn't have his price, but don't leave me alone. I'm a little frightened.
The great Alexander Dobie. Frightened.
Well, I've never been in a position before where my money was useless. I'm not used to that sort of thing, blasted. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's a concession for you.
Look, Ipswich, Mr. Ipswich, maybe you can help me out.
I?
Well, you've known me for now, for quite a while. Couldn't you give me a reference?
Sorry, employees and their families are excluded from taking part.
Oh.
I might make one suggestion, however.
Yes?
Your daughter.
My daughter?
Surely if there's one person in the world you've left who's sorry, it must be she.
I never thought of Arlene.
It seems to be your last chance, Mr. Dobie.
All right, Mr. Ipswich. We'll see how Arlene feels about it.
Poor Mr. Dobie. Fancy, $1 million, not enough to buy what he wants. Let's hear how he gets on with Arlene.
This is my home, Mr. Ipswich.
Rather ornate, isn't it?
Why, this house cost $250,000. The marble's imported from Italy, and, it was very expensive.
Let's hear what your daughter has to say. That young man who's with her, we saw him a little while ago.
That's Lewis, the bank accountant.
I'm sorry to disturb you at a time like this, Mrs. Dobie.
That's quite all right, Mr. Lewis.
I've brought a copy of a statement I gave the executor of your father's estate. I thought you might want to keep it in your files.
Thank you.
We were all deeply shocked at the bank, Miss Dobie. Your father's death was so sudden. I want you to know that you have all our sympathy.
Thank you. But you needn't put yourself out too much, Mr. Lewis. I understand.
I beg your pardon.
No one really misses Father. No one cares that he's gone.
Oh, but surely...
He didn't have a friend in the world, and you know it.
Arlene.
To be perfectly frank with you, I'm finding it hard to care myself. I know it's a terrible thing for a daughter to say, but, well, I can't be a hypocrite. My father gave me everything that money could buy. Everything but happiness.
I'm sorry.
He ruled my life like a dictator. I could never make a move without his knowledge. I could hardly even breathe unless he said it was all right. And before he died, he even separated me from the man I loved, Fred Renner. Fred's never come to see me, and, well, I don't think he ever will again. My father and I had nothing in common. No matter how hard I try, I can't be sorry.
Well, Mr. Dobie?
All right, Mr. Ipswich, I guess we can call it a day. I'm ready.
Just a moment.
What?
Someone else is standing over there. He seems to have heard what your daughter just told Lewis.
It's Renner, that dentist. How can he have the nerve to come here, that murdering nincompoop? How can he have the crust? Why, he hated me so much he tried to kill me. In fact, by George, he did kill me.
Arlene, I couldn't come any sooner.
Just as long as you did come, Fred, it's all right.
For a while, I thought I could never come at all after what had happened.
It was an accident.
Oh, you do believe that, don't you?
Well, of course.
The gas output was defective. I tried to bring him around, but
Defective, I like that.
Arlene, I heard what you told Mr. Lewis just a few moments ago.
Well, I couldn't help it. It's how I feel.
But you mustn't feel that way.
What? What did he say?
No matter what your father was like, Arlene, he loved you. It's the one thing in his life he was sincere about. You must believe it.
You can say that after the way he treated you, Fred?
Oh, I can forgive him for it. And go one step further. Arlene, I'm sorry he's gone. I really am. He wasn't a very pleasant man, perhaps, because no one understood him. But underneath, I don't know. I feel he was decent, in spite of everything.
Is that Renner talking?
Looks like you've got your reference at last, Mr. Dobie.
I can't believe it. Renner. Say, that's mighty nice of him. It's certainly something I never expected. Wait, he's looking my way. I thought you said he couldn't see me. Which way in blazes he go? Sees me, I'm sure of it. Look, he's walking in my direction. What's that he's got in his hand? Looks like a mask. Gas mask. Why, the murdering weasel. He's going to kill me all over again. You can't kill me, you fool. I'm dead already. Take it away! Take it away! Take it away. You're killing me. Take that mask away.
Mr. Dobie, wake up.
Take it away.
Mr. Dobie.
He's coming around. He's in out.
What happened? Who are you?
Officer Callahan, Police Emergency Squad. That respirator just saved your life, Mr. Dobie. Dr. Renner here gave you a little too much gas.
Boy, it was an accident, I tell you. My meter wasn't working.
That's something you may have to prove, Doc.
What do you mean?
You're coming down to headquarters with me. Maybe this wasn't deliberate, but criminal negligence can be another story.
Criminal
Just a moment, officer. Who do you think you're talking to?
What?
You know who I am.
Sure, you're Mr. Dobie.
Then get on about your business and leave us alone. How dare you accuse my prospective son-in-law of criminal negligence?
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Dobie. I
I didn't mean...
Go on back to your precinct, and no report of this to anyone. You hear?
Oh, yes, sir. Sorry, Dr. Renner.
Well, it's quite all right. Mr. Doby.
Well?
Did you really mean that about my being your prospective son-in-law?
I always mean everything I say, young man.
Well, let me thank you for the way you acted with that cop. I mean, well, it was honestly an accident, but, well, you could have made an awful lot of trouble for me.
I think nothing of it, Freddie. Matter of fact, you might return the favor one day.
Return the favor? How?
Well, you never know, Renner. When I may need a reference.
Well, there you are. Alexander Doby seems to have gotten his second chance, and I have a feeling he'll do a better job with this one. Yes, at one time or another, we all need references, and it's always a good idea to keep it in mind. And if you ever want my help, don't hesitate to call. I'll be glad to provide a fitting testimonial for any of my friends. And everyone knows my reference is a good one. For after all, the time is always right.
The Clock will be heard again next week, same time, same station. Lawrence Clee writes it and Hart McGuire narrates. As Alexander Doby and Mr. Ipswich, you heard Tom Farley and Ken Hannum. Others in the cast were Howard Craven, Frank Waters, and June Salter. The Clock is a Grace Gibson radio production directed by John Saul.